Talk Live, and it's the live Sunday edition of the program. As always, you may join us here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Skype username is LRN.FM. In the studio with you here tonight, it's Ian,
Jonny Ray,
and Mark.
All right, so you can, of course, bring up anything that's on your mind. A lot of people, I'm sure, are still talking about the situation with Syria, the United States, Russia. A report from thesun.co.uk says that Russia and Iran have now pledged to hit back against further Syria strikes as they blast the United States for crossing red lines. This at the same time that there's another headline saying that Trump says he would hit Assad again. So, he has not been deterred by any of the public outcry against this particular act. Of course, I believe Hillary Clinton was praising the move, and at least that's what I've heard. I haven't seen the footage. But a lot of people in the media who are critical of Trump now seem to love him, now that he's shown that he's just like all the other presidents. He's willing to slaughter innocent people, which, of course, he was already doing before the Syria attacks. He was already dropping bombs from drone strikes in various different places. So this really isn't anything that new. It's just more noteworthy because it was a military installation that was attacked, I suppose, to the news.
I thought that Trump's shining jewel, was that he was not insane about Russia like everybody else was, everybody in Washington. And I think this whole thing just goes to show that he is not his own man anymore, if he ever was. And you
think he's been bought out or sold out or threatened or something like that?
He's just been shown, I don't know exactly how, but somebody's explained to him how things are going to be, and now he's going to do what they tell him to do.
I don't usually participate in conspiracy theories, but I've heard it posited that basically Reagan was a pretty good libertarian until he got shot, at which point he stopped being one, essentially.
I've heard that before.
And maybe, if that were true, I'm not going to say maybe because I don't know, but if that were a true statement, then perhaps the same people or the same people with the same agenda got to Trump and said, hey, things could be really bad.
It's hilarious. Trump, to me, in my eyes, is an agent of the Sunnis helping to wipe out heresy in the Shia Crescent, and so many of his supporters are so just anti-Muslim, hands down, and I think it's crazy that he's there doing what he's doing.
No doubt. And you're welcome to share your thoughts here. Toll-free number 855-450-FREE. The story here from The Sun, Russia and Iran have said they'll respond to further American military actions. In a joint statement, the command center for the two countries and allied groups said, quote, "We will respond to any aggression." The statement read, quote, "What America waged in an aggression on Syria is a crossing of red lines. From now on, we will respond with force to any aggressor or any breach of red lines from whoever it is, and America knows our ability to respond well."
Who said that?
This is a joint statement from Russia and Iran.
Okay.
Regarding Syria.
So if it looks like aggression, they'll respond? Is what they're saying?
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're saying they're going to let this one slide. So they're not going to attack as a result of what happened on Friday with the 59 Tomahawk missiles, but they're drawing another line in the sand and saying next time something is going to happen, that they are going to respond.
Bad idea to tell Trump that.
Because you think it'll provoke him?
Well, it'd be like telling you that. In your case,
but I'm
you
a
wouldn't.
peacenik.
Yeah, understood. But if somebody tells you not to do something, the chances of you doing it have just gone up exponentially.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. So anyway, that's the latest on that developing situation. Of course, last night I mentioned there was this North Korean defector that was interviewed by NBC News. Because what we discussed last night, for those of you who didn't happen to be tuned in, was the idea that North Korea is now the boogeyman on the horizon. That is what they're angling towards, possibly taking some action on with this Council of the National Security Council coming out with recommendations, two crazy-sounding recommendations for Donald Trump. One of them that they should... What the hell that is. Sorry about that. Anyway, one of the recommendations was that the U.S. move nuclear weapons into South Korea, which would be the first such move of nuclear armaments by the United States, apparently, in like decades. So that's a pretty serious thing if that actually happens. But even more serious, in my opinion, is the potential for assassinating Kim Jong-un. And by the way, have either of you guys seen the picture of Donald Trump merged with Kim Jong-un?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Very funny. Very funny. I think I shared it on the Free Talk Live Facebook last night, so you can check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's a perfect... the two faces just merge together perfectly. You got to see it if you haven't. Anyway, NBC News interviewed somebody who's a defector, supposedly from North Korea, and the thing that we never got to last night in this story was really kind of some of the quotes from this guy. His name is Tae Yong-ho. He's the most high-profile North Korean defector in 2 decades, meaning he's able to give a rare insight into the secretive authoritarian regime. So there's obviously a lot of fear out there about North Korea possibly deploying a nuclear weapon against the United States or someone else. And there doesn't seem to be any evidence that they have the ability to actually do that. They may have some nuclear warheads, but they don't apparently have any kind of ability to deliver that payload across the Pacific Ocean. They don't have an intercontinental ballistic missile that anyone's aware of. There's a lot of speculation, of course, on when they might be able to have something like that, but they don't supposedly have it right now. Anyway, according to the defector, Mr. Tae, North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un is, quote, desperate in maintaining his rule by relying on his development of nuclear weapons and ICBM. Once he sees that there's any kind of sign of a tank or imminent threat from America, then he would use his nuclear weapons with the ICBM. So that's the defector saying that he doesn't believe Kim Jong-un would do something unless provoked. So even though we're supposed to believe that Kim Jong-un is this madman who's just with his finger hovering over a launch code or a launch button, ready to just drop a nuclear weapon on somebody.
But what does provoked mean?
Well, that's not clear. He says here if he sees any sign of a tank or an imminent threat from America. Tae was living in London and serving as North Korea's...
If you look far enough, you'll see a tank.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
What's a threat?
Obviously, he hasn't seen the tank that he considers to be a threat because he hasn't done anything.
People are often willing to believe that foreigners are crazy and would act against their own self-interest just because
they're foreigners.
Yeah, they're insane foreigners. But Kim Jong-un won't do anything that he knows will result in his death.
Well, yeah, I mean, he could run to some sort of underground bunker, I suppose, but either way, that's going to be a much less pleasurable life for Kim Jong-un once he emerges from that bunker into a country that has been ravaged by, a nuclear holocaust. So, yeah, I mean, it's in his best interest to not launch the nuclear weapon, the same reason why the other countries that have nuclear weapons don't launch theirs. Mutually assured destruction and all that. Anyway, Mr. Tae was living in London and serving as North Korea's deputy ambassador to the United Kingdom when he and his family defected to South Korea and were announced to the world in August. He was not directly involved in North Korea's weapons program, but believes that his country has, quote, reached a very significant level of nuclear development, unquote. The country is estimated to have upward of 8 nuclear weapons, but has not demonstrated the ability to attach them to a long-range rocket like an ICBM. Analysts are unsure exactly how close the regime is to achieving this aim, but a senior official told NBC News in January that his government was ready to test fire one of these missiles at any time, at any place, which, of course, is exactly what the North Korean government would be expected to say. Yeah, they want to rattle the saber. They want to make it sound like they're armed up, that they've got all the, the weapons that they could possibly want. And the fact is they're relatively cut off from the rest of the world. They're poor, they're hungry in a lot of cases, and they may have some military hardware, but they don't really have any evidence of doing much with it. I mean, they've got neighbors that they could be attacking with it, but they're not. So the toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. The idea that if they're not going to attack South Korea, but they're somehow going to attack the United States, it just doesn't hold water with me. We got more here from what this guy had to say, and he sounds to me, and you'll get another quote from him here, that it sounds to me like he still believes Kim Jong-un is somewhat godlike. More coming up here, Free Talk Live.
If you're a sleep apnea sufferer who's on the go, go to your phone. Because if you give us a call right now, you'll be able to try the world's first portable mini CPAP device absolutely risk-free for 10 restful nights. It's the Transcend Mini CPAP, an engineering marvel that's as small as a soda can and weighs less than a pound. Its unique design is so small and so light, you can fit it in your briefcase or purse to use anywhere you go. No more dragging around a big, bulky CPAP. Even better, now you can try Transcend absolutely risk-free for 10 restful nights by calling minicpap.com, 1-800-768-3138. Transcend is FAA compliant too, so you can even sleep comfortably while flying. You can also add a battery pack that's as tiny as a deck of cards. So now you can enjoy the freedom to sleep comfortably anywhere. But don't wait. To receive your 10-night in-home trial, call minicpap.com now. 1-800-768-3138. That's 1-800-768-3138.
Have you racked up more than $10,000 in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by, making minimum payments? You should know the credit card companies are tricking you into thinking there's no way out. Credit card companies would rather you didn't know that there are ways you can become debt-free and you don't have to pay the entire amount you owe. There are debt relief programs that help people like you escape overwhelming credit card debt. National Debt Relief has helped tens of thousands of people just like you reduce more than $500 million of debt. National Debt Relief has helped so many people they're A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. You don't have to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan. You have the right to settle your debt for a mere fraction of what you owe. Reduce a large portion of your debt now. Call National Debt Relief at 800-314-7417. 800-314-7417. That's 800-314-7417.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. You may already know about the Free Talk Live audio-on-demand phone line at 641-793-9660. Did you know that not only can you listen to Free Talk Live via your phone, you can also leave a message and have it delivered to Free Talk Live's hosts? To leave us your thoughts, just dial 641-793-9660. That's 641-793-9660. Press 2 for Free Talk Live, and then hit 0 to leave your message. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Dial toll free here. Our number 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've got economics in one lesson coming up here hopefully tonight. We've still been trying to get through to chapter 15. Our pace has slowed to a crawl, and that's usually a good thing because it means that people are participating in the show. And of course, we tend to go to you as the caller prior to any kind of show prep stuff because we want to talk to you about whatever's on your mind here on Free Talk Live. With you, it's Ian.
Johnny Flat Earth Ray.
And Mark.
Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Don't tell me they got to you, Johnny Ray.
They made me think about things.
No.
Oh, God.
You're teasing. You're teasing.
I mean, what are you going to believe, your own eyes, or are you going to believe what some pointy-headed intellectual tells you?
You can believe both by taking an airplane flight and looking for yourself. But anyway, Freedom's Phoenix is a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. Do you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty? Well, freedomsphoenix.com has it. The Daily Dispatch is the best way to stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. It's Freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com. We're talking about another North Korean defector. This one is the highest-ranking defector that has defected in the last 2 decades, and he was interviewed by NBCnews.com, sharing some of his comments, because one of them, a particularly bizarre one, is coming up. We'll get to that here shortly. Anyway, analysts are unsure exactly how close the North Korean regime is to achieving this aim, but senior official told NBC News in January that his government was ready to test fire an ICBM at any time, any place. Adam Scott Swift, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, told NBC News that the American officials were particularly troubled by this latest threat. He said, quote, "They have the nuclear capability."
Okay, so if North Korea having an ICBM and testing that ICBM is a threat, then Americans, the United States government having an ICBM and testing an ICBM is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, so the United States has threatened, I don't know who exactly, but they have certainly tested ICBMs. They have blown up nuclear weapons. I mean, it's clear.
I strongly suspect that President Trump has at one time or another tweeted something along the lines of, or something in the nature of, that he would fire or fight anytime, any place to make America great again.
Yeah. Absolutely. And by the way, again, they said that the government, this was the spokesperson for the North Korean regime, saying they are ready to test fire an ICBM. They actually mistyped that as ICMB here in the article. But anyway, ICBM, quote, at any time, at any place. Well, that just means that they're ready to test fire one, and that doesn't mean they have actually done so. That's not even really a threat. That's just saying we're willing to do a test fire of a missile that we may or may not have.
You're exactly right. And translation can change the meaning of something. And,
that's true.
And anybody wanting to tell a story about somebody who's speaking a foreign language can really do some damage to the truth.
No doubt about that. The Scott Swift from the U.S. Pacific Fleet said they have demonstrated a nuclear capability, and then when they're going with a miniaturization of that, whether they can actually weaponize a missile, that's what is driving the current concern, unquote. The defector, Mr. Tay's interview with the NBC News team comes against a backdrop of rising tensions surrounding North Korea, which has significantly increased its missile and nuclear tests under Kim's rule. President Donald Trump told the Financial Times newspaper on Monday that, quote, "something had to be done," unquote, about North Korea. This came after Defense Secretary James Mattis said the country has, quote, "got to be stopped," unquote, and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said military action was on the table. It does feel more dangerous, according to Admiral James Stavridis, an NBC News analyst. He says, "I'll give you 3 reasons. 1 is Kim's own precarious situation in command of the nation. Number 2 is the instability in South Korea. We've just seen the South Korean president indicted, arrested, and incarcerated. And number 3, a new and more aggressive American foreign policy coming from Washington." So yeah, well, that does make sense, right? If the American government is talking tougher than they were previously and acting tougher, then it's inevitable that other countries,
people are going to react.
Dictators are going to toughen up their talk as well.
You run around talking tough, sooner or later somebody's going to give you the fight you're looking for.
Some analysts have warned military action against the country might be very difficult and even disastrous. An invasion could risk a retaliatory strike against U.S. allies, including Japan and South Korea, whose capital, Seoul, is 50 miles from the border. Nonetheless, the defector, warned America and its allies to be prepared. If Kim Jong-un has nuclear weapons and ICBMs, he can do anything. So I think the world should be ready to deal with this kind of person. Again, he said if he doesn't have any personal knowledge whether or not he actually has those things.
Right. This is the defector talking, right?
Correct.
Okay.
he added, this is the quote that I really want you to listen to. Quote, Kim Jong-un is a man who can do anything beyond the normal imagination. Now, that to me sounds like the indoctrination talking. It is very widely believed, supposedly, in North Korea, that Kim and his father and grandfather before them are essentially the equivalent of gods. I'm sure to some extent that has washed away a little bit over time, down through the generations, as more truth is being spread through the black market channels by smuggled flash drives with outside North Korea stuff that comes from outside content like South Korean television and an American television and movies. So I'm sure that's been whittled away. But they believe these people are gods. They believe that they can do anything. The fact that this guy has defected and is still talking like that?
I don't know. The quote to me could mean something else, and it could mean that he's fabulously wealthy.
He can do anything beyond the normal imagination?
Could that just mean he's unpredictable?
I suppose. Maybe it's another translation issue here, but still, it sort of rung like, wow, this guy really still believes that old Kim Jong-un is a god.
Right. So we've seen movies where, for instance, Doctors Without Borders will go in and, do some kind of surgery or something and restore somebody's sight or something. The first thing they do is rush off to the the picture of
statue or whatever.
It's not it's the first guy, whatever his name was, Kim Il-sung.
Yeah,
Kim Il-sung, and say, oh, great leader or whatever, and thank the great leader for the fact that they can see when the doctor who restored their sight is standing next to them. This shows that there certainly are a great deal of people who are certainly indoctrinated.
Oh, there's a whole story behind the Kims, and that they, I don't know if it was that they came down from a mountain or something like that, and there's
they claim to have found a
palace.
Unicorn in unicorn nest in Pyongyang.
There's a big palace that's full of gifts that supposedly were given to them from world leaders all around the globe. There's this huge propaganda campaign that goes on from a very young age there. They believe that the Kims design everything. So I remember watching a Vice documentary, I think it was, about North Korea, where they were talking about this. It was an exercise facility, basically, and you're supposed to believe that I think it was Kim Jong-il at the time, or maybe it was Kim Jong-un, either way, one of those two, that they had personally designed all of the program, that they had designed and personally picked all of the the various different exercise equipment that they had in there, and there were certain ones that he had that he had sort of deemed to be his equipment, and that people would line up to exercise on that equipment. More coming up.
Lifetime Grazed 100% grass-fed beef has the health benefits you seek. When compared to conventional beef, it offers good fats while virtually eliminating the bad. That's the result of cattle who never eat grain, ever. Rich in antioxidants, including vitamin E, C, beta-carotene, and CLA. No artificial hormones, antibiotics, or other drugs. For all our fresh, non-cooked products with only 100% grass-fed beef, go to MidasResources.com. Use voucher code GCN to get 30% off your order. MidasResources.com, or find us on Facebook.
The answer to being in control of your own healthcare is freedom from insurance. Become part of a group of self-pay patients that come together to share in each other's medical expenses. Individual share amounts begin at $107 a month and $347 for families. Choose from 3 health-sharing programs. Holistic treatments may be eligible for sharing. See guidelines. Discount programs available for dental, vision, and pharmacy. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Feens radio show. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgoristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agorist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers, and some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agorist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any tomfoolery. So go with AgoristHosting.com. And if you want to get your foot in the door with decentralized marketplaces, Agorist Hosting is now offering Open Bazaar hosting. Go to AgoristHosting.com, click on the button that says Get Hosted. Agorist Hosting. That's AGORIST hosting.com.
In Survivor Max 2, School Bites, Max must scavenge through a wasteland swarming with the undead. Desperate to find the medicine he needs, he discovers a community of survivors at his former school. Has he finally found the safe haven he's been looking for, or will he discover that school bites? Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, and read Chapter 1 at SurvivorMax.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and one with just the Edgington Post. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
So, I heard somebody say that 50 is the new 25. I mean, I can live with that, but isn't age just a number? I mean, if you feel good and look good, who cares about numbers anyway? I take care of myself, and, well, I use Nature's Youth RSF from, you guessed it, Nature's Youth. Think of the money you spend on things that make you feel better for just a little bit, and then think of spending the same amount or less on something that can make you look and feel better for a lifetime. How about the facts? The ingredients in Nature's Youth RSF work naturally, providing just the right environment to support healthy HGH levels while maintaining homeostasis. RSF is non-toxic, and it doesn't contain any synthetic hormones, which can weaken your endocrine system. Simply add RSF to your sensible diet and exercise plan. You can, and will, thank me later. Forget about that aging number I mentioned and focus on the anti-aging number. 800-333-6923. That's 800-333-6923 and online at naturesyouth.com. Nature's Youth. Live your life.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Free Talk Live. Dial toll free and join us right here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Live Sunday edition of the show. With you tonight, you've got Ian here.
Johnny Ray.
And Mark.
And, of course, we've got Skype. You can Skype on into the show at username LRN.FM. We're talking about the Defector, one of the more recent high-level defectors from North Korea, who's getting out there and saying something what I consider to be bizarre. It could just be a mistranslation, adding that Kim Jong-un is a man who can do anything beyond the normal imagination. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about this current defector and what it is he has to say about the mysterious regime. But first, to your calls and thoughts to Skype, where David is on the line in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. I almost said North Korea. Go ahead, David.
People would argue that it is like North Korea. In fact, actually, that reminds me of a funny thing. I was talking to a kid. I call him a kid. He was in his mid-20s a number of years ago about the situation that I'm dealing with corruption in New Mexico. And after hearing what I had told him, and these guys, their family had been here. I won't give the family name, but their family had been here. They traced it all the way back to one of their relatives worked for Christopher Columbus. And they're kind of bad guys a little bit and get into some trouble. And so he was pointing out to me a particular lawyer that can make anything go away. If you have, he said, but you got to have about $10,000. But if you got some problem, you can make it go away. And a real prominent lawyer in the area. And like I said, I don't want to have something bad happen to me, so I'm not going to mention the guy's name.
Saul Goodman. I saw a show about him.
So it's all good, man.
Better call Saul. Good.
Yeah, but anyway, so in this kid's statement, unsolicited, he got mad when after hearing my story and got emotional. I said something about the state of New Mexico. He said, "This isn't a state. This is a third world country." And this is like this Eddie Aragon, the program manager here. He traces his family back 12 generations, and so they're proud of being here, but yet they call out their state as a third world country. But anyway, what I was calling to share was some more whistleblowing stuff. I believe that I know for sure that I caught one, and I won't mention names yet. I'm still doing investigation, and I want to bust this person. But for sure I caught somebody committing a tort, meaning a civil infraction, not a criminal. But I do believe what this person is doing rises to criminal as well. And if I can, I need to make some phone calls and try to confirm that. And if I can, then I'll share that.
Well, that's you can't tease people like that, man. I mean, you get on the radio and talk about that you've got some kind of evidence. I mean, can you be a little more generic about what this is in reference to?
Well, it's in reference to continuing to take monies that don't belong to you when you have a contract with the state to get money for providing services, and you're continuing to take the money without providing the services, and it's blatant. In other words, staying on the payroll when you know you're not doing the work, and you should have called in and said, "Stop paying me."
Well, as long as he's buddies with the people in charge, then he'll likely be pretty insulated from that. And of course, if you can get the evidence about it, then maybe you would have the ability to bring a case. But I don't know. Maybe they would say you don't have standing, although you could argue that you probably do because you're a taxpayer. It would be interesting to see. Go ahead. I already have standing for the damages that were done to me on the civil side, and if there is a crime committed, I don't need to have standing because I'm just a whistleblower. I'm reporting the evidence of the crime. Well, of course, then you have to expect the prosecutor's actually going to do what you want them to, and a lot of times they're going to protect their buddies. David, thanks for the call. Let us know if that develops. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. It's good to be in the good old boys. You know, you got the connections, you get the contract in the first place, and then if you just keep on rolling with whatever the supposed responsibilities were, but you put them aside and keep collecting the check, just to make it look like you're complying or whatever, or doing as very, very bare minimum as is possible. I'm sure this happens all over the place. Just how often they get caught is another question.
I can't. Do you remember the government bureaucrat, and I think it was in Boston, that hadn't shown up to work for years?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or he'd come in for like 2 hours a week or something like that.
Okay, yeah. There was one in Boston that was coming in very irregularly, and then there was one in Spain that hadn't shown up to work in years.
And we're still getting the paycheck.
Oh yeah, they're cashing the check.
It's really, really hard to fire somebody.
In government.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's something, and I'm not speaking about that even. I'm just saying it's difficult to do because you don't want to do it. You don't want to hurt somebody. You don't want to get
sued as well. You got to be careful. You got to cross all your T's and dot your I's.
But sometimes it has to be done.
Right.
Except when you're in government, and then it really doesn't have to be done. The reason people fire employees, is because of their own profits and losses,
right?
Because they're forced to do it. They don't want to do it, but in order to save everybody else's jobs, they have to fire this person.
Well, sometimes you want to. If you found out that the person is, let's say, stealing from you, you want to fire somebody like that.
But it all comes down to efficiency, I think, is what Johnny Ray is talking about. Nobody likes to fire anybody, but
you can like someone and still have to fire them.
I mean, the government is the opposite of efficiency, so that is sort of taken away. They can put these artificial, hurdles for the employees to jump,
and there's all kinds of appeal rights, and the unions, there's many unions, of course, that are government worker unions that get involved in these firings, and sometimes they can get the person's job back with back pay. We've seen that happen.
Happens
with
all the
corrupt
time.
Cops, for instance.
Right. My wife worked for the state of Florida for a period of time, and it was just surprising to hear her, a registered Democrat, talk about how completely inefficient and inept her coworkers were that were hired by the last boss, the new boss. She liked her or whatever. And I think that that lady was trying her very best to have an efficient organization. But when you are a government employee, you are competing against so many inefficiencies that you just basically lose.
Yeah, you often hear politicians saying that they're going to run their city like a business.
Yeah, they love making that
That's
claim.
why Trump's in office, I'd say.
And it's just something that is impossible for them to do.
Why?
Because a business has profits and losses, and a government doesn't. So if you don't have that, then you can't make informed decisions about what the people want. And
the business is always receiving market signals. Profits and losses are a couple of things that they can observe, but also you get feedback from your customers as well. And if you don't change based on the feedback that you receive, then your profits may decrease and your losses may increase even further. In the case of government, they don't really care what you think. They only pretend like they care once every 4 years.
Coke, before the internet.
Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola, before the internet, figured out that New Coke wasn't working. Even though it had tested really well, the flavor was, the best flavor compared to Pepsi and Classic Coke and all that other stuff. And they figured out very quickly that the marketplace didn't like it.
I wonder why. They don't like things that are new?
I think that's the reason. And there were some very...
Could have called it Old Coke, and maybe it would have done better.
Very verbose people, running campaigns against it, that sort of thing. It did well for the first few months, and then sales began to collapse. They ran Coke Classic back, and then Coke took market share from Pepsi. Just because people are like, well, I guess I better drink Coke, otherwise they're going to bring back the new Coke. Or is. But the government would never do anything like that. They never could do anything like that. They can't roll back. They don't understand. They don't know. Yeah. It's their job to shove that pill down your throat. So that's what they're prepared to do.
Have you guys ever heard the phrase, the customer is always right?
Yeah, it's a load of crap.
It's not exactly true, but it's in business, it's something that you make it true. Because if you have a customer, even if he's not right, you try your damnedest to make him feel like he's right.
That's true. Yeah, that's a better way to look at that statement.
And you help him through, and that's something that is forced on businesses because customers are so awful sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But you're nice to them and you help them have a good experience at your store because the market forces you to do that.
You don't want that
a-hole. DMV employees can't do that.
Yeah, you don't want that customer, as bad as they are, going out and bad-mouthing your business.
Which they will.
They sure will. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. Join us here. It's Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com is the most unique online destination in the Bitcoin universe. Buying Bitcoin? Do it here. Want to speak your mind to other Bitcoin users? Our forum is always open and censorship-free at forum.bitcoin.com. There's no bigger Bitcoin believers than the Bitcoin.com team. That's why this site is a one-stop shop for everything you need to get into Bitcoin life. You can also play games at games.bitcoin.com. Learn more at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
You've said it yourself. We need a healthcare system that focuses on health, not sickness. Health insurance pays for treating sickness but gives you nothing for being healthy. There's a free market healthcare company that gives you freedom from health insurance. They give you a proactive health assessment daily, no charge 24-hour access to doctors. Check them out right now at healthexcellenceselect.com. Any kind of doctor, traditional, integrative, chiropractic, acupuncture, and massage. You'll love the service and price. healthexcellenceselect.com. healthexcellenceselect.com.
Hey, diabetics. Yeah, you. Got a spare hour to waste going to the pharmacy to get your insulin or other meds and supplies every month? I didn't think so. Me either. I've got life going on, which is why I use PillPack. PillPack is an amazing online pharmacy. They package up all my diabetic meds and testing supplies into daily doses and send it to me every month, automatically. All I do is pay my normal copay. PillPack does the rest. I'm serious. This is a free service. They don't even charge for shipping. PillPack handles all the medical insurance stuff and even get with my doctors for my other prescriptions so I don't have to, which is good because that's the stuff I forget. But PillPack remembers everything. They even package up my daily vitamins so I remember to take them too. If you're diabetic, your meds and supplies are life and death, which means you need PillPack. Call right now for this free service. You may even qualify for $25 in free vitamins. 800-560-7310. That's 800-560-7310. Again, 800-560-7310.
Friends of local man Carl Brewster told reporters this week they are all absolutely at a loss as to how he is not completely depressed.
I've known Carl for years now, and he really is a great guy, super nice. But honestly, I don't know how he doesn't go home and cry himself to sleep every night. I mean, he walks dogs for a living, and no one will ever date him. I really don't get it.
Saying that they were baffled at how their close friend managed to remain even moderately happy day in and day out given his life circumstances, sources confirmed they were regularly confronted with Carl's perplexingly gregarious and affable demeanor.
I mean, Carl's life really, really sucks, but somehow he manages to wave good morning to me every time I see him, and he always has this big smile on his face. Maybe he's on some kind of medication.
Things have always been really awful for Carl, but he's never really been depressed. I mean, I make 3 times as much money as him, and I'm totally miserable. Honestly, we all thought he would have killed himself by now, but he hasn't.
This is the Onion News Network.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Live Sunday edition of the program. North Korean defector, a fairly high-ranking one, is speaking out. We'll share a little bit more from him. Your calls and thoughts are also welcome. Plus, we've got economics in one lesson that we need to get to tonight, so that's coming up as well. Of course, you can take control of the airwaves. We've got Skype, and the Skype username here is lrn.fm. And how'd you like to try out what might be the best pillow you'll ever use? It's MyPillow, and you can try it out for 60 days with very low risk. What you do is you go to mypillow.com, use code FTL, like Free Talk Live, and that gets you your MyPillow at half price, or if you want 2 for the price of 1, it's up to you. You go to mypillow.com, use code FTL, like Free Talk Live, and then you get a 60-day window of time where you get to decide if you like it or not. If you don't, you can send it back, and they'll send you your purchase price back. If you do like it, well, you're going to feel good because it's got a 10-year warranty behind the product, and it's washable. You can wash it, you can dry it. It's actually designed for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's the real thing that separates it for me from any other pillow that I've experienced before.
I disagree. It actually works better than any other pillow. I mean, I've had the memory foam pillows, and this one is comfortable every single night. It doesn't matter. I've had some bad nights on memory foam, and
it's because it doesn't hold your head and neck in the right position.
They're supposed to, but yeah, they're not.
You've got to buy the memory foam that's right for your body. If I ever used my wife's memory foam pillow, it always left me in bad shape.
Yeah.
But you have to have the one that fits you correctly. I had a latex pillow that was exactly the right size for me, and it worked really well. But the thing was disgusting.
Yeah,
couldn't wash it.
This works really well, and I've been using mine for about a year now. So have you, Mark. You go to mypillow.com, use code FTL, like Free Talk Live for the discount of 50% off. Let's go to Ricky in Pennsylvania. Oops, actually, there's something else going on in the background. We're going to have to mute the web browser. We'll try it again. Ricky in Pennsylvania, now you can be heard. Go ahead.
Brother Ian, Brother Mark, how you doing?
What's on your mind tonight, Ricky?
Well, I had a very interesting thought. I was sitting here, and I'm looking at this business in Syria, and I had a very interesting thought, and I kind of wanted to get you guys' take on things for a change. Well, there's a civil war going on over there, and I'm looking at it. We do have a very bad habit of sticking our nose into other people's civil wars. Now, I know I spoke in the past about an imminent civil war that's eventually going to happen here, and I think probably right on schedule for I'm figuring. Now, I was thinking about that. Now, if we were to have a civil war, how would people here, and I'm looking at kind of both sides, how would they think if a third element, like a country, stuck their nose into a civil war that we were having? How would we feel about it?
I think that both sides at some point or another would dislike it.
What
no, it'd be entirely contingent on which side they were fighting for.
Yeah, but look,
I mean,
okay.
if they were fighting for my side, I would love them.
The Brits, if they helped anybody, they helped the Confederates more than they helped the U.S. During the American Civil War. But I would say that the Brits are more roundly disliked in the South than they are in the North currently. So, that's the conclusion I'm drawing from. Maybe I'm wrong.
All right, Ricky, I'm curious. You're talking about the Civil War. I mean, what do you see on the horizon? What do you believe the Civil War in the United States will be about? And what will the sides be?
Well, we have I'm sorry, Ian?
Well, and what will the sides be? What will it be based on, and which sides will be fighting?
Well, I said before, the sides are already picked. I mean, the Trump campaign utilized the tactics that we use to create and further the war effort. Now, unfortunately for them, this administration is completely falling apart because really they're just throwing away all the stuff. Because see,
but that didn't answer my question. You said there's a civil war. What are the sides going to be, and what's it going to be about?
Make it clear.
Well, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a retelling of history, just like we had in 2016 with the elections. And this time we have the benefit of the past.
Okay, but are you saying that it's going to be Trump supporters fighting
Republicans against Democrats? Or?
Yeah, what are the sides in the Civil War? Who do you see?
Well, I believe that what we will have is you will have the return of the word Confederacy. You will have, in that general term, you will have...
So you believe the South will rise again, is what you're saying, and that there will be another Confederacy fighting against the North?
Not just the South and the North. It will be the North and the South, but also think about the rest of the country, because the mentality, the same mentality that was there between the North and the South, we are all the same people here. And that same...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when you say we're the same people, do you mean that we are the same people as the people from the original Civil War?
The North and the South are the same, but the East is not the same as the North.
What about the West?
But the West is the same
But they
as the
will
North.
fight, the South and the North, even though they're the same people.
The sides have already been chosen.
In California, in all honesty... I talked to whether it be California or other parts.
They want to leave. I mean, isn't it more likely that you're going to see secession movements rise rather than armies rise? I mean, this seems...
Yeah, why fight over this stuff?
Right.
I mean, is it just trying to shove your favorite presidential candidate down somebody else's throat? Is that what American politics has devolved to?
Well, I'll go by what Dwight Eisenhower said.
Okay.
Dwight Eisenhower said there will be peace in this country when the people demand it so much of the government, they will have to give it to them. And
that
I
doesn't
think
make any sense.
Well, it does, because, see, the government would rather be imagine this. You had an unstoppable force, and it's very possible at this point in time in history, what we have at our disposal, there's a lot of awareness at this point, as opposed to the past. The old tricks aren't working, and people have just had it.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to rise up and pick up guns and try to kill the political opponents. Thanks for the call tonight, Ricky. I mean, we've heard this kind of fear-mongering from certain camps of there's a civil war on the horizon. And a lot of times they'll claim it's going to be some kind of race war. That's typically the claims that we'll hear on Free Talk Live. So that's the first time that anybody's ever claimed that the South was going to rise again. And,
he kind of was...
Or that the Democrats were going to fight the Republicans.
With Ricky, you have to pull the threads to sort of figure out what he's saying. He's kind of saying that the red states will fight the blue states.
It's going to be like a Confederate Tea Party coalition is what I was thinking.
There's just no evidence for it. I mean, yeah, there was some upset after Trump got elected. There were definitely some protests. There was some violence in some of those protests, but there's no evidence that anybody is wound up enough to actually fight with their neighbors. You know, beyond the typical political conflict. Obviously, politics is in itself a sort of war that happens between different sides, but ultimately it's all settled at the ballot box, not with the cartridge box.
What I'm afraid of is that the United States will just go further and further and further along this path of humiliation and discreditation, and they'll lose respect. They'll lose their hold on the currency of the world. The dollar will lose its ascendancy, and then the the government will turn inward and start blaming.
Consume itself?
They'll start blaming the unpatriotic inside, and it'll be kind of like a tin pot dictatorship type place where there's no respect
terrible.
from any other nation.
It sounds plausible, though. I think that's a much more believable story than what Ricky was saying.
And you'll have kind of a loyalist versus separatist sort of a thing.
I don't think the federal government has the strength right now to hold a state that doesn't want to be in the Union, so a secessionist state in the Union.
You mean like military strength?
No, the political strength. So in a world of communication...
Because if a state wants to leave, then it would have to be the military that would stop it, right?
Right.
Okay.
It would have to be. And right. Okay. The United States government has the military strength to do whatever it wants, but it can't do certain things with its military because the people won't let it happen. For instance, Obama wanted very badly to go in and take out Assad, right? But he couldn't do it because the American people are sick and tired of wars. What I'm saying is that I don't think they've got the political capital to go after a state that votes to leave. And that's because, you know, back in the 1860s, for one, the states were leaving. Sure, it was about sovereignty, but it was also about slavery and that sort of thing. So you had this moral push to say, no, slavery's bad. You're just going to go and do more slavery and stuff. And so the abolitionists were on their side and that kind of thing. Yeah, there are lots of things wrong with the Civil War. I'm not trying to argue that. I'm just saying that if a state wants to leave because, I don't know, they don't like having the president shoved down their throat, the military isn't going to have the social capital to mount some kind of invasion.
I tend to agree with you on that. Even though they've got the equipment, it would be very difficult politically for them to pull that off, to invade their own family members, basically, is what would happen there. 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. We got hour 2 coming up on Free Talk Live. Do you need a website for your blog or new business? It can be pretty intimidating on your own, and that's why Free Talk Live has partnered with HostGator, one of the top hosting companies. HostGator offers a simple, one-click, easy installation for WordPress, 24/7 over-the-phone or live chat tech support, and a very intuitive, user-friendly control panel that puts the power of creation back into your hands. Go to HostGator.com/FTL, and you'll get 50% off of their regular hosting prices. 50% off. HostGator.com/FTL.
A funny thing happens when you don't advertise. Nothing. Modern advertisers have been trained to look for trackability in their advertising, and web search ads are great for that. They also help you get the consumer that's looking for products like yours in the moment. But they're expensive, and they do nothing to convince people to try your product segment in the first place. If you're a local advertiser, contact this station. If you can use national exposure, Free Talk Live's on more than 150 stations, and we can help advertisers with little budgets and big ones. Send me an email, mark@freetalklive.com. It's mark@freetalklive.com.
Ross Ulbricht was convicted in early 2015 of running the infamous Silk Road underground market. The Silk Road was a gift to humanity and helped reduce the harms brought on by drug prohibition. For this good deed, Ross has been sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now, an appeal is Ross's only chance, and he needs your support. Please visit freeross.org, where you can contribute via various methods, including Bitcoin. Visit freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
The 3 most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share 1 episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene, the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, April 9th, 2017. Silver is trading at $18.02 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,255 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.2 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,186. Antiwar.com reports while U.S. outrage at civilian casualties from Syrian airstrikes is being used as a pretext for military intervention against the Syrian government, U.S. forces continue their own airstrikes backing military operations in northeastern Syria and are killing an increasing number of civilians in their own right. On Saturday, U.S. airstrikes near Raqqa killed at least 21 people, mostly civilians, and while some of the strikes were near fighting between U.S.-backed troops and the Islamic State, at least one of the strikes appears to have been a deliberate attack on a boatload of civilians attempting to cross the Euphrates River. The boat was carrying about 40 people, and non-government organizations say that at least 7 bodies, 6 of them children, have been recovered so far. The U.S. has dropped leaflets in areas urging civilians to flee towards the Euphrates, but apparently dropped a second leaflet warning them not to cross the river or they'd be attacked. The airstrike centered around the village of Hanida, which is along the Euphrates River west of Raqqa. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported a number of additional civilians killed in U.S. strikes on the village. That the U.S. is attacking the village is puzzling because the Islamic State is not believed to have any presence in the village itself, and it appears to be at least some distance from the fight. The biggest target in the Hanida strikes was an internet cafe, with the U.S. strikes destroying the site, killing 14 people within, including 4 children. The U.S. is so far not offering any justification for any of the attacks in the area. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Bitcoin Not Bombs. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system and to fully capitalize on that decision in their fundraising efforts. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. UPI reports New York is poised to become the first state in the nation to provide free tuition to public colleges and universities after a deal struck as part of a larger budget negotiation was announced on Friday. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who announced the proposal in January alongside former Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders, hailed the deal as a historic opportunity for hundreds of thousands of families in the Empire State. Under the terms of the deal, the program would be phased in over 3 years. This year, students whose families earn less than $100,000 per year would be eligible for free college tuition. The cap would be raised to $125,000 once the program is fully implemented. The deal includes both the state universities of New York and the city universities of New York. The program does not cover the cost of incidentals like textbooks or room and board. Though the legislation eliminates tuition costs for many lower and middle income families, for students who exceed the income cap, tuition will be increased $200 per year for the next 5 years at all state schools. Under terms of the deal, students who accept free tuition to one of the schools would be required to live and work in New York for the same number of years they accepted the benefit, or the free tuition would be converted into a student loan. The in-state work requirement was largely seen as a concession to Republicans who control the state Senate, who balked at the price tag, an estimated $163 million by 2019. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports the Alabama Supreme Court ruled on Saturday that impeachment proceedings against Governor Robert Bentley can start next week, halting a court order that had blocked hearings stemming from his relationship with a former aide. Bentley has battled impeachment efforts over the last year and has defied calls from political leaders that he stand down. The 7-0 decision by the High Court allows impeachment proceedings to begin in the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee on Monday, even as justices consider new filings in the case. Bentley's troubles began last year when recording surfaced of him making suggestive remarks to a former advisor, Rebecca Mason, before his wife of 50 years filed for divorce in August 2015. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
This year's Coachella Music Festival is happening right now. And that means one thing: the largest gathering of contact jugglers in the world. All the biggest names from the sea juggling scene are performing all over the festival, including Mr. Tomorrow, Isis, White Angel, Chad Brunstein, and of course, the legendary Conundrum. Our own Lena Perez is live at Coachella.
This music festival is a who's who of orb masters and jugglement.
What have the highlights been so far?
Well, Yasu Kaitu did his first stateside performance in 3 years over by the Smoothie Tent, which was amazing. And there was festival favorite Hans Hansman freestyling in his usual spot near the portable toilets. But I'm really excited for Becca Flannery Miller. She's 4'5", wears transition lenses, and is a master of the multi-ball.
I love her. And I heard there was a surprise late night set from the Winterhorn Brothers.
Yeah, right outside the DJ tent. It was an unbelievable flurry of spearsmanship.
I wish I was there.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you may take control of the airwaves here. Bring up whatever you want, everything that is on your mind, or at least one of the things. We don't have time for everything. But over time, you can call in every night if you want. I mean, we're here 7 nights a week. You can dial in at 855-450-FREE. So, yeah, just pick one thing. That's usually good enough to get a conversation going. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Johnny Ray,
and Mark.
Live Sunday edition of the program. North Korean defector. We've been sharing some of his comments. He's one of the highest-ranking North Korean defectors in the last 2 decades, apparently the highest-ranking in the last 2 decades. And he's escaped and is speaking out about Kim Jong-un. Is this guy a real threat? He said that Kim Jong-un is a man who can do anything beyond the normal imagination. The final and real solution to the North Korean nuclear issue is to eliminate Kim Jong-un from the post, which, of course, the only real way that that could possibly be done is with an assassination campaign, which is what we were talking about last night. And that is a scary idea, which would set a very unnerving world precedent. I mean, essentially in recent times. It's hard to point to different examples of world so-called leaders being assassinated. There was somebody who called in last night about the president of, or the equivalent of the president of Vietnam back in 1963 was apparently assassinated. But that was by another Vietnamese person, not by the United States government, apparently. So, actually trying to find examples of governments assassinating other government
What about
bosses.
Saddam Hussein? The United States government didn't assassinate him.
But it was a campaign to dethrone him.
It was a campaign to dethrone him, and they fired missiles at the places he was supposed to be.
And have him tried and sentenced by his bitterest enemies.
Right, and and give him a show trial at the end. I think that's the best argument for the closest thing to an assassination that we could come up with.
Well, there's
night.
Anwar al-Awlaki. He's not a world leader.
Yeah, I'm talking specifically about somebody who's the head of a state being assassinated. They generally stay away from doing that because to open that particular Pandora's box would mean that it would be open season on whichever state, which I don't like to call them leaders, whichever state boss man, gang member, the head gang member, whichever one orders that hit. He better start going into hiding at that point, it would seem to me, because it would seem that that he's just dropped the most important rule between heads of state. The most important rule is we don't ever fight one another directly.
I think that the heads of state, so they cut themselves into categories, right? Mm-hmm. So the United States, Great Britain, Russia, China, these places consider themselves to be the real countries.
The top dogs, right. The first world.
And then the rest of them are just vassal states that we let hang around and take care of the poor people. Right? And so if he were to... I don't think that anybody, including China, takes Kim Jong-un very seriously. Like, the only people taking Kim Jong-un seriously are
the North Koreans
and the South Koreans. Yeah. Maybe the Japanese, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. I don't even think the Japanese do. I think the Japanese, if you let them off the chain, would go and just take him out about as fast as they possibly could. They're really sick and tired of putting up with his crap, and they don't particularly like putting up with Koreans in the first place. So that's just a guess on my part. I don't think too many people would feel too bad if they went in and did it, but that's proposing that they could.
Yeah, I don't think that the Japanese have a program like that. They don't have a military where they can find people of the right temperament to do the wet work.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they have the capability to assassinate Kim
South
Jong-un.
Koreans' military is full of conscripts. They're all forced to join that military. So.
Right. I'm not saying it would be easy, and that's the thing is that I don't think it's easy to do. Like, people imagine, they've watched a lot of movies, and they imagine you can send the SEALs in and take care of anything, right? Like, we've built these people up to be supermen and women. Maybe there's a SEAL woman, probably not.
There was a movie about that.
Yeah, there probably is. I don't think
G.I. Jane.
Did she actually become to the SEALs, or was just a Marine?
I never seen it.
Anyway, I don't know. Just a Marine. People imagine that it's that easy, but if it was that easy, it would have been done multiple times by now. The United States hasn't won a peace. The wars they've won, but the peace they haven't been able to keep since World War II. They keep on failing at it, and basically they don't have the guts. They got the guts to win, but they don't have the guts to keep on keeping on and control those nations once they have one. And that's what people keep on imagining, is somehow you can just take the bad person out and everything will be fine. How'd it go in Iraq?
Right. Now you've got ISIS.
How'd it go in Libya?
You could argue that Saddam Hussein was keeping down bad guys like ISIS.
Right. So I mean,
Hussein, not a good guy, but not as bad as the other bad guys.
Right. Does South Korea want North Korea? I mean, probably about as much as the United States wants Mexico. I mean, not even Mexico. El Salvador. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but North Korea is a disaster compared to South Korea. Why would they
keep the lights on?
Yeah. Why would they want to take all these impoverished people?
So the Defector added that Kim Jong-un is a man who can do anything. Kim came to power, by the way, according to the story here at NBC News, in 2012 and has defined his strongman premiership by the pursuit of a nuclear weapon that can hit the United States. He's conducted more missile tests than in the rest of the country's history combined, and 3 of North Korea's 5 nuclear tests came under his watch. According to the Defector, Mr. Tay, Kim is obsessed with obtaining nukes because he saw what happened to Iraq's Saddam Hussein and Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, both of whom abandoned their country's weapons of mass destruction programs and then were overthrown by Western-backed forces. Now, again, this guy is a fairly high-ranking defector, and it's interesting here what he's saying, because he's saying that it's because of what the U.S. did to Saddam and Gaddafi, which were the 2 examples that you came up with last night of the closest things to a U.S.-based assassination campaign.
Now, yes.
That he's saying that it's because of what the U.S. did to those 2 men is why Kim's obsessed with having a nuclear weapon. He does not want to become after and does not want to be the next Saddam. He does not want to be the next Gaddafi. So therefore, if the U.S. government had minded its own damn business in the case of Iraq and again Gaddafi, then maybe Kim would not be pursuing this nuclear threat with such gusto. Again, more blowback. In this case, it's blowback that wasn't even directly linked to the violence.
It's a fair estimation, I think. Would the United States be considering unseating Kim Jong-un if he demonstrably had an ICBM with a nuclear warhead? And I think that the answer is no. That once you become a nation with an ICBM with a nuclear warhead, right? You're in the we're here forever club.
Many analysts agree that Kim sees that nuclear weapon and the retaliatory threat it poses as an insurance policy against a similar strategy being pursued against him. According to the former diplomat, the world should look to Kim's past actions to see what he's capable of. The young leader has reportedly been responsible for purges and executions of top officials and even members of his own family. Last month, according to the U.S. and South Korean intelligence officials, Kim masterminded the assassination of his own half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, at an airport in Malaysia. Tay said that, quote, Kim Jong-un is a person who did not even hesitate to kill his uncle and a few weeks ago his own half-brother, so he's a man who can do anything to remove anyone in his way, unquote. Since his defection, Mr. Tay has been making media appearances and giving talks denouncing North Korea's controlling and often brutal society. For this reason, he believes he could be the next victim. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. Patrick in Virginia, you're on Free Talk Live. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
What's on your mind tonight?
I guess
Are you talking right into your phone? You're kind of muffled, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Is
That's
that better?
That's better. Go ahead.
All right, I got some nephews back in Washington State. They do a lot of fishing, trout fishing, and salmon fishing. I was just trying to figure out if they ever straightened up that mess that they had about salmon fishing with the Indians and stuff like that.
I would recommend the internet.
Yeah, there's a thing called Google.
I just don't know.
Really?
Salmon fishing in Washington.
We'll do internet searches for people who don't know how to internet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tribes
yeah,
dispute
yeah.
shut down Puget Sound salmon fishing season.
When was that one from, Mark?
I don't know.
There you go. Try
It's
the
new.
internet, Patrick. I mean, we don't know anything about that. We're not from around there, so we haven't heard anything. Hey, thanks for the call tonight.
Yeah.
More coming up here, and have a drink. It's Free Talk Live, 855 450 free. More coming up here, live Sunday edition.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-976-5978. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-976-5978. That's 1-800-976-5978. 1-800-976-5978.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. Attention. If you or a loved one had a total or reverse shoulder replacement between 2011 and 2016 and suffered serious complications, including dislocation and loosening, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Evidence indicates that these devices can dislocate and loosen, causing severe pain, and may require additional revision surgery. If you or a loved one had a total or reverse shoulder replacement and suffered a dislocation and loosening requiring a revision, call 800-598-0696. If you or a loved one had a total or reverse shoulder replacement between 2011 and 2016 and suffered serious complications, including dislocation and loosening, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Time is limited to file a claim. Act now. For more information and a free consultation, call 800-598-0696. That's 800-598-0696. Again, that's 800-598-0696. Call now.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadadi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
Did you know you can watch Free Talk Live during our live shows 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cams at cam.freetalklive.com? Plus, you can chat with other listeners while you watch, all totally free. Now that our live video stream is hosted by YouTube, our video archives will be online even faster. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, the live Sunday edition. As always, you can bring up what you want. Toll free here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And you can join us online anytime at freetalklive.com. Mark, you're running a fundraiser for Ugandan children, orphans, that are trying to actually get out of a very, very shoddy living situation.
Right. They're currently living in what amounts to a large walk-in closet. It's not very big. And as I understand, their lease is up relatively soon. I'm not exactly sure the specifics on that. The person with whom I'm speaking, his command of the English language isn't stellar. But I've been in contact with him for 8 months now. I've vetted him, just up and down to, to be sure that he does what he says he's going to do. And recently he said he was going to use some money that I gave him, specifically I gave him, to buy some shoes for the kids. And so I guess he went off and he bought some used shoes, and there was a big party. They had some rice and some fish, right?
Good times.
Like to them, this was a big party.
Right. Right.
They had some rice and
pictures.
some fish.
You showed me the pictures.
Yep, I absolutely did. Video. Thank you, Mr. Mark. Right.
Okay.
The whole thing. And what I'm trying to do right now is to, more than me, but some other folks, is trying to get a foundation poured. They need $2,000. We've raised like $300. And to
what'd you have to pay for your foundation at your house?
10 grand maybe.
This sounds like a deal.
Well, they've done all the work, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got people, they've got shovels,
right?
They've got manpower. They've put together 60,000 bricks.
Okay,
they've
so they're
made
ready
them,
to go.
they've baked them, they've done everything. There's just some things they can't do without modern materials. So they need some concrete, they need some rebar. They're not paying for labor on this. They'll put it in themselves, but their foundation needs to be right. Otherwise, the building's just going to go away, and it was a big waste of time and money to put it in the first place. So please help me help these orphans. There's 40 orphans there. They're orphaned because of AIDS and Ebola and war and all these things that are going on in Africa. It's amazing how many orphans they have in a small community like they do on the outskirts of Jinja. And if you want to help, please go to hope.freetalklive.com. That's hope.freetalklive.com. If you need help getting money to them, like you want to do PayPal or something like that, absolutely. I'll make sure it gets to them. Just send it to all the information's there at hope.freetalklive.com.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. We've been talking about Kim Jong-un and this most recent defector, the highest-ranking North Korean official to abandon the regime since in the last 20 years, actually, and what he's got to say. Just because North Korea is a fascinating place and just kind of a horrible train wreck way. Let's talk, though, to Joe in New Mexico, listening to Kiva. Hey, Joe.
Basically, I just want to bring up the point of, the defector has been manipulated by communists. What's going on in America nowadays through all kinds of media and resource. But the guy, from some of the comments you've made and some of the things I've read about the defector, he actually fears for his life. Unlike you and I, we don't fear for our life. And but what do you think? Specific information that he's giving, and we're getting, his content of character of what he's saying. What do you relegate as fact and what's fiction from communist influence? What do you think?
That's a good question because, it's hard to really know how much this guy knew. He does admit that he wasn't really aware of any facts surrounding Kim Jong-un's nuclear program, so he can't really do anything except speculate on that. But whatever area was his expertise, he can probably comment on that. But, who knows how much they keep all of these party members in the dark, too. They probably are only allowed to know what they need to know. and not much more than that. And that's just speculation on my part, just based on how closed off of a society that North Korea is. It's very limited. There's only certain people, only certain elites have access to things like the internet, for instance. So I don't know how much this guy knows. I'm just learning about him as much of our audience is as well.
Okay. And just to let you know, I served under Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
I don't know if you respect him or not.
I don't respect any government president because to me they're all a bunch of thugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like his quotes, though. I think he's got some good quotes.
He does have some nice quotes.
You also don't respect the police in America, American police, right?
No, I respect individuals as, individuals based on what they do. I don't think the police are doing overall the good things for people. I think that sometimes they go after real bad guys. I think that when they do that, they deserve to be praised when they actually go and catch a rapist or a murderer or something. So I appreciate them when they do the right thing, but they do the wrong thing so often. There's very much that can be criticized about them, and I am not afraid to do that.
So you say 90% of their actions are illegal?
Well, I don't know what the percentage is, but day in, day out, they're out there arresting peaceful people who have not harmed anyone else, whether it's for possession of a plant or some other chemical or underage possession of alcohol or ticketing people for, rolling through a stop sign or going 10 miles over a speed limit. I mean, they're constantly going after people for a bunch of petty crap that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be spending their time on.
Okay. So let the petty crap go and go for. You're okay with heroin, distribution, crystal meth distribution?
Well, let me tell you about heroin for a second. Do you know when heroin became illegal in this country?
No, I have no idea.
It was about the 1930s. Would you say that the United States, prior to the 1930s, was on the ascendancy as far as nations go? That it was building to be one of the greatest nations the world has ever seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like this country was founded and run by and brought to greatness by people who had legal access to heroin. So, yeah, sure. I'll say that heroin legalization will be fine.
That doesn't mean I support abuse of heroin just because something is legal.
But apparently, our forefathers could handle legal heroin. It's somehow this nation now, people imagine that it somehow can't. Right? I mean, isn't that what it comes down to, caller?
If your opinion is that, and see, I'm about this. I'm about influence. So today's society has a different influence compared to when you're talking about the 1930s. I don't think that in the 1930s, obviously they had a problem with opiates and other drug problems in the 1930s that was causing an effect on the workforce because it's all about get up and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how you don't like it or like it. So if you get up and you're clear-headed and you have the ability with your skills and your innate God-given talents to contribute to society to better your fellow man, and if you're using drugs to inspire you, I guess, to build a wall and you're doing heroin and a guy next door is not, and they do a better job than you do on heroin because it's going to affect you. Have you ever done heroin?
So do you think that it would be a better idea? Do you think it would be
heroin up?
Hold that thought,
You're running
Joe.
in circles, Joe.
Hold that thought here,
You're
Joe.
running in circles.
I want to continue with the discussion. Do you think it would be a better idea to take the guy who shoots heroin and put him in a jail cell? Because that's how they're trying to solve that problem now, and that doesn't seem to be working. 855-450-FREE. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you know what's lurking in your water? More than 200 contaminants could be sitting there, just waiting for your glass. With the ProPure water filter, start enjoying clean and great-tasting water today. ProPure filters, independently tested, latest water filter technology. ProPure systems do not require electricity and are easy to set up and easy to use. To find out more, visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX That's 800-34-NO-TAX or my website, danpilla.com.
Hey guys, Mark Claire here, lionsofliberty.com, where we strive to advance the ideas of liberty daily. We bring you the Morning Roar. That's right, every Monday to Friday we'll have a brand new edition of the Morning Roar, where we provide a roundup of some news stories that you may not find in the mainstream media or even in your typical social media newsfeed. We find stories that relate to the ideas of liberty and provide you with our liberty perspective on them. Every Monday, we have our longest-running feature, Mondays with Murray, named after the great libertarian Murray Rothbard, where we'll examine an article or an excerpt from his works and help convey his view, along with our little spin as well. We wrap it all up every Friday with Felony Friday, where our own John Odermatt goes out and takes a look at some sort of felony. There's felonies committed every day, you know, whether it's a felony committed by the police, a politician, or even an average citizen. You can find all of this and so much more over at lionsofliberty.com. Advancing the ideas of liberty daily.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. For years, LRN.FM has had a listen line that you can call and listen to LRN.FM anytime. Now we're taking the idea to a new level with the LRN.FM audio on-demand line. You can call 641-793-9660 anytime and listen to LRN.FM's live feed, and you can listen to a bunch of our original shows on demand. Long-distance fees may apply. Just dial 641-793-9660 and choose from the menu 641-793-9660. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can take control of the airwaves here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. We were talking about Kim Jong-un. We can say more about him in the most recent Defector, the most high-ranking defector in the last 20 years. He's got a few more comments that I think are worth sharing. We've also got economics and one lesson to talk about with you tonight in studio. It's Ian,
Johnny Ray,
and Mark. And
we're going to continue with your calls and thoughts here. Also, I do want to let you know about how you can help Free Talk Live by getting your shopping done. You go to shop.freetalklive.com. You can enter Amazon through the links you'll find there. There's Amazon UK, Amazon Canada, Amazon US. You go into the right Amazon for you, get your shopping taken care of, and Free Talk Live gets a portion of the purchase price. It is that easy to do. Makes a big difference for us when you do it too, please. So take an extra moment before you go to Amazon and start your shopping through shop.freetalklive.com. As we go back to Joe, he's listening to Kiva in Albuquerque. Joe, you had got onto the subject of drug legalization or drug decriminalization, bringing up the specter of heroin. And this is something that a lot of people have had to deal with maybe loved ones in their family or someone else that's close to them. I think many of us here in this very studio, we've known probably at least one person in our lives that has been a heroin user and has had some problems. They call it a crisis here in New Hampshire because people are so bored or whatever their problems are in life. There's a problem with people using heroin here. And there's no doubt that heroin is, when abused, a dangerous drug. It's also, when used properly, a very effective painkiller and something that could be very easily used in a clinical hospital environment. So heroin itself isn't inherently bad. The problem is, of course, the abuse of drugs, and usually the reason why people abuse drugs like heroin is because they're trying to escape from what they consider to be an undesirable life. And there have been studies that have shown this, that have shown it very, very clear. And I'm forgetting the name of the black gentleman who has the dreadlocks, that is a doctor who did a study about this. But it was fascinating because he looked at Carl Hart, was it? Anyway,
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I think it might have been Carl Hart. But anyway, he did this epic study where he brought a bunch of crack addicts and meth heads into a clinical hospital environment for what was a 3-week-long study. Dr. Carl Hart, I think Carl Hart Jr. Anyway, he brought them into this hospital environment. They offered them on a daily basis a nice fresh piece of crack or methamphetamine, and it would have been clinical grade crack, so not some kind of street garbage that would have been cut with stuff, but the best possible crack that you could ever imagine getting. And they gave the addict the opportunity to either take the crack or the meth, and or they could take a payment. So I'll put you back on hold, Joe. There's a little bit of noise there. We'll bring you back here in a moment. They could take a payment of $20, but the catch was the payment would not come until later, until after the study was done. So again, they were going to be in that hospital for 3 weeks, and every day. These are addicts who were offered
they took
a fresh piece of crack.
They took crack addicts off the street. They offered them crack or money, and the money wasn't even right now. It was money later. And what was the result?
The result was overwhelmingly people chose the money later on. So
if the money was enough.
Correct.
So when there was a little bit of money.
If it was $5,
if it was $5, they'll take the crack. If it's $20, they'll take the money. And what it showed, what they concluded from this, and this is social science, this is a soft science, it's not exactly hard science. What they concluded from this is that drug addiction is less about physical addiction and more about hope,
circumstances.
Right. Yeah. So if you walk up to your average smoker and say, I'll give you $100,000 to give me the pack of cigarettes that's in your pocket and you never smoke again, there's a good chance that they're going to give it a try. Mm-hmm. At the end of 3 weeks, if you haven't smoked a cigarette, I'll give you $100,000. Now, if you say at the end of 2 years, I'll give you $100,000, it's a lot harder for them to do that.
It's hard to visualize, hard to believe.
Because humans respond to, much more. They want their reward much more quickly, and. That's sort of one of the flaws in the design, and drugs do offer a quick reward. I get it. I suspect if you legalized heroin that you would probably see some real changes in American society, but not all of them would be bad.
Let's go back to Joe in New Mexico. So, Joe, your thoughts are welcome. Go ahead.
Your propaganda and asinine concept of legal, no problem. Have you ever shot heroin?
No,
that's the best you got.
I don't intend to.
Nope, I haven't.
Have you ever smoked crack?
Yes.
No, I have not. No.
Okay.
Why do you ask? What's the relevance of those questions?
I've shot heroin one time.
Would you be better off because you? Would you be better off had you spent time in jail? Hey, Joe, because you did some heroin, do you think you'd be better off today if you'd spent a year in jail over it?
Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I did it one time. Look, I should have been in jail many, many times over a bunch of shit.
Okay, you can't say that on the radio. We're going to have to let you go. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. It's too bad because I really wanted to have whatever that conversation was going to be with him, but he was saying that he's been in jail, he should have gone to jail because he's done a bunch of S, and that's why we had to drop him. We're on a radio show here. You can't say the S word. Sorry about that, and we have a kind of a zero-tolerance policy. But, Joe, you're welcome to call back tomorrow night. We're on 7 nights a week. I'd like to continue that conversation because it's my contention that a drug addict is already experiencing the punishment from their behavior. The drug addict is somebody who, in a lot of cases, can't hold a job down. In a lot of cases, can't hold a relationship together. They're damaging their own body. There's all kinds of fallout and damage that comes from being addicted to drugs. Okay, that is a fact. It doesn't make their lives better to send them off to jail for a certain period of time if the police catch them using these drugs. That's not compassion. It's not something that works. We know it doesn't work. People in this society tried it. They tried alcohol prohibition. That didn't work. It just drove alcohol underground. It made it more dangerous. And it made it so more people overdosed. It made it so more people died. It brought us gang violence. And the same things are happening now with the other drugs that are now prohibited: heroin, meth, cocaine, you name it.
Or you can ignore the evidence that of things that have occurred in Portugal with their
I was going to go there too.
Drug decriminalization.
Across the board drug decriminalization of personal amounts of every single drug you can imagine. All of it's legal to possess in personal amounts.
In Portugal, people with heroin problems are going to find help because they aren't this illegal underclass. And what they've seen is a decrease in
dramatic decrease.
Yeah, heroin addiction, and probably more importantly to everybody, in young people trying hard drugs. Because now young people get to see, you end up under a bridge, right? As opposed to, it being in the dark, shadows and those sorts of things. That's really the problem. Look, I'm not trying to find people to shoot up heroin, but I'm telling you that this nation was founded by people who had legal access to heroin.
Children could buy heroin.
Built by people who had legal. It was until the 1930s.
Yeah.
And that, it's irrefutable evidence. You can look at the United States prior to the 1930s. You can look at Portugal. You can look at Amsterdam. Or you can cling to lies that you've been told your whole life. Those are your choices. Yeah. You don't have any other choice. If there's another choice, and if I'm missing it, by all means, call me at 855-450-3733. And you know why? You owe it to me. I don't want to be an idiot going through life believing that somehow there's a better way to handle heroin addiction. By all means, the prison industrial complex in this country, maybe it's not big enough. Maybe we need to incarcerate 2% of the population. Maybe we need to take more productive people out of society, put them on bunk beds, and just have them sit there. Please, call in and defend it.
Yeah, I mean, really, the reality is you're going to have them getting high in the prison because that's what happens there. So you arrest them.
It's not easy to get heroin in prison, buddy.
You can get stuff, though. You can get different drugs.
Marijuana.
You can get different drugs, from what I've been told.
Well, I spent 8.5 years in prison, and I saw, I saw marijuana that cost 10 times as much as marijuana on the street.
So anyway, more coming up here. 855-450-FREE. I know you were trying to jump in there, Johnny Ray. Stand by. We'll get to that. And you can share your thoughts. This is Free Talk Live's live Sunday show.
Sheba is 105 lean pounds of happy dog for life because she gets fed Dynavite and Lico Chops.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite for your dog this week.
We'll send you a bottle of Lico Chops free.
New improved Lico Chops with omega-6, omega-3, vitamin E.
And now 6 extra direct-fed microbials.
Even better for the digestive tract and immune system.
Try Lico Chops.
Free this week at Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
This is Ed Lukasevic.
And Cindy Lukasevic at Dynavite.
This year, whenever you order a 90-day supply of Dynavite for your dog, we'll send you a free sample of one of the other doggy things we make.
Like Lico Chops, Super Mega Fish Oil, or Doggo Suds Shampoo.
What's on your dog's wish list?
We'll offer a different freebie each week at Dynavite.com.
Don't you just love the sound of healthy, happy dogs?
Dynavite is nutrition.
Dynavite for life.
DINOVITE.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business. So make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free Reputation reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You dial toll-free. Join us on the radio here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Joining you in studio tonight, it's Ian,
Jonny Ray,
and Mark.
We got Economics in One Lesson, chapter about prices that we never really got through in our continuing book review, book club thing that we've been doing here on the airwaves over the last, several months now at this point. It seems like we've been doing this for a while. But we're going to continue with that, and your calls and thoughts are welcome. We got into the war on drugs just a moment ago. You're welcome to comment on that. Or Kim Jong-un and the new North Korean defector, the highest-ranking defector in the last 20 years to come out. What has he been saying about his experience there in North Korea? What things are changing over time? We'll get to a few more of his comments as well. But let's go to the phones, in this case to Skype, where Liberty Lover is on the line from Ohio. Go ahead there.
Hey, guys. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's on your mind?
It's funny you were talking about economics. I got started on this last night, but I never really had a chance to finish. You had a lady last night, Sarah, I believe it was, that was calling in saying how people like Donald Trump and all the billionaires are not sharing their wealth. And I don't think that she understands that we have a monopoly on the wealth itself.
Who's we?
Sorry, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated.
That's all right.
Who has the monopoly on wealth?
Sorry, by we I meant the Federal Reserve.
Okay, you're not a member of
this country. We in this country are subject to a monopoly.
Okay, that's more accurate. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I don't know that the wealth is necessarily the Federal Reserve has a monopoly on wealth.
They have a monopoly on money.
They have a near monopoly on money and money creation.
That's a good point. I'm glad you pointed that out, Mark, because money is not necessarily wealth. It's one representation to some extent of wealth, but it's not the whole picture. The amount of wealth you have is different than just money. It can, we're wealthy here because we have things like air conditioning and heating and relative easy, cheap access to food. There's all kinds of things that you can measure wealth with. But anyway, go ahead with your thoughts on it.
But the U.S. dollar is like the world's money. It's the money of the world.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and even when it was backed up, I wouldn't have agreed with it. As you know, money used to be backed up with gold and silver. Dollar bills were silver and gold certificates. There was something backing that up, whereas today they just print it off for the fun of it. But when I explain to people, there's a lot of people I talk to that say, well, we need to tax the rich more so we can get more things. And what they don't seem to understand is that the rich are in charge of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
People like Janet Yellen, for example, who's on the Board of Governors. She's in charge of the Fed. And if you increase the tax rates on the rich, they're simply going to change the money to accommodate for that.
Yeah, well, and also the rich are in charge of the government, too. I mean, they're very influential there. So the idea that they'll in any way ever really be put to task is pretty ridiculous. But even
they always have the loopholes. And don't forget that
they'll just leave if they truly are.
Right. They've tried this over in other countries. And the fact is that you just have the rich people going elsewhere.
Right. They'll take their jobs with them.
They go to the Cayman Islands. Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just, shut it on down.
They do that too. Yeah, that's true.
Which
means they'll get rid of their jobs.
Ask yourself this. If you make a 90% tax bracket, and that did exist at one point in the United States, and to some extent, a lot of people will argue that it still exists today if you apply all the regulations and costs of taxes at all levels. But regardless, with a 90% tax bracket, would you work for 10 cents on every dollar? Because I don't think I would. I think I'd just be like, whatever, I'll go do my investing in another country.
And I think that's what makes Bitcoin so special is because, as you know, have you ever heard of a man named Bernard von Nothaus?
Yep, we've had him on the show.
He created you have?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's been on the show more than once in the past. It's been a while, but yeah, he created the Liberty Dollar, which was before Bitcoin the most popular alternative currency in the United States.
And I think that's the thing with Bitcoin, which is what makes it so special. It's an alternative currency that nobody controls.
That's right.
It can't be taxed, not to my knowledge at least. And it's an alternative to what the Federal Reserve produces. But what I want to know is why is that illegal? But I can't go into my backyard and make like Stefan dollars. And if somebody's willing to take them, they're not allowed to because that'd be violating legal tender laws.
No, you can make Stefan dollars. You can absolutely do that. You can't violate legal tender laws unless you refuse to accept the legal tender. So as my understanding, I'm not a lawyer, but legal tender means if you're in the political jurisdiction of the United States or whatever country you're talking about with legal tender laws, then you must accept the legal tender for all payments of debt. So
maybe counterfeiting is where he would run afoul of the law.
Yeah, you don't want to counterfeit the legal tender because then you're going to be in big trouble. But if you want to make your own little Stefan bucks, then and give them to people, that's totally legal.
Isn't that what Bernard got in trouble for? Was apparently one of his coins looked too much like something the mint would have produced?
Well, yeah, that was one of the problems.
That was one of the issues, yep.
That they went after him for, and it was tragic what happened to him. Thankfully, he didn't end up having to go to prison over it, but I believe he's got some probation.
What really sunk him was this video that he was doing, a promotional video where he goes up to some hot dog vendor or something and says something to the effect of, "It's the new $10 piece." And he drops it in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say, like, he wasn't specific at all that this was not that's the new U.S. dollar $10 piece, but, just the presumption. So you've got Lady Liberty on the front. You've got him saying it's the $10 piece.
In God we trust.
In God we trust in God, I think is what it says.
Oh, okay.
And, it looked a lot like
at a glance, maybe.
Right, at a piece. And I've used these. I used these.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I went to a gas station, and the lady basically is like, "Why are you using this?" And she thought I had, like, robbed Grandpa's coin collection or something.
Right, because who would spend silver?
Right. I mean, at the time, it was a $10 piece, and silver was at, like, $7 or something. And so they were getting... I'm sure they bought it right out of the drawer. I'm sure they just snapped it right up and said, "Oh, I got $10 for that." And most of the time, these pieces never made it to the bank at all.
That's right. But they'd get bounced back if they did get to the bank.
When they went to the bank, sometimes they would get bounced back. And that's really where Bernard ran afoul. Now, he didn't get in trouble. If he would have just used his different dollar silver certificate things.
The warehouse receipts.
They
wouldn't have taken them.
That wouldn't have been a problem. But
wouldn't have been a problem with the federal government, but yeah, it would have been harder to pass them off at a retailer.
So what the federal government is currently doing is a quarter has always been a quarter of a dollar. And a quarter was made out of silver because a dollar was a measurement of silver. So what you in fact have is the United States federal government is counterfeiting silver, which is what Bernard was proposing to use as money. And so they're charging him with counterfeiting their money, which is counterfeit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like anything they can't control, they just want to shut down right out of the
That's
gate.
certainly true. Or if they can't get a piece of the action, that they want to shut it down. So you mentioned the people that are obsessed with like sticking it to the rich. This is it's very common. You'll see in a lot of circles, especially on the left, is the idea that the rich are bad and you got to screw them over in order to make things better somehow. And here's the thing. We've already pointed out the reasons why that's not going to happen. The rich are basically in control of the government. But beyond that, not all rich people are bad. Many of them got rich because they provided a good or service that people really wanted, and they did it at a good price, and they legitimately made their money. And then, a lot of them have done good things like given significant money to charitable efforts and things like that. But if you really want to stick it to the rich, the best way to do it is to abolish the state, because the reason why the state the reason why the rich stay so protected is because the state is there to protect them from upstarts and innovators, people who would get into their industry and bring a real challenge to whatever it was that helped make them rich in the first place, whatever product or service. A lot of times those long-lasting companies sort of get to rest on their laurels. Maybe they've got copyright or patents and things like that, other government guarantees basically against competition. You get the state out of the way and you empower the poor people to actually create wealth for themselves for the first time ever, instead of having to go and work for some rich person. If you don't have to beg the state for permission to have a job or beg the state to open up your own business, you can just go into business and start. That is the best way to empower the poor and actually have the rich be subject to a level of competition that they've never experienced. But unfortunately, the people that want to stick it to the rich believe they're going to do that by getting control of the government, and it's a fool's errand.
Oh, yeah. And one more quick thing. I don't think a lot of people really realize that they have a lot of the power to stick it to the rich now. A lot of people complain about how like Walmart or McDonald's and people like that, they're not paying their employees a living wage and how they're horrible, yet people continue to shop there.
Yep, that's true. You got to vote with your dollars. Thanks for the call, Liberty Lover. I appreciate it. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. But, how do you compete in a marketplace where you can't just go and open up a store? You got to ask government permission first. So, what do you go from Target to Walmart? Because they're both basically both the same. I mean, Target's a little more upscale, but that's about it. There's still mega companies that support state interventions and all kinds of protections from competition. So open up the marketplace to a free market, and then the rich will actually have to compete with even the poorest of people. It's Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com is of the opinion that the current Bitcoin core development team is not taking satisfactory steps to ensure the growth and advancement of Bitcoin in accordance with Satoshi's vision. As community efforts to resolve these problems have failed, it is necessary to resolve them with a different approach. By using subreddit r/BTC instead of r/Bitcoin and running Bitcoin Unlimited, you are casting a vote against the current development team. Learn more at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
What do you shop for that you could otherwise buy at Amazon? Pretty much everything, right? Amazon has competitive pricing and they deliver, and that's a big plus. If you could plan ahead in your shopping, would you be interested in saving up to 33%? There's a catch. You have to do your shopping in Bitcoin. But imagine those savings. It's like a huge raise. All you have to do is go to saveatpurse.com. We've saved thousands, and you can too. Plan ahead and save. Saveatpurse.com.
For Bitcoin to be ubiquitous, people need to use it. For people to use it, they must have it. How can we get Bitcoin into more hands? Tipping. What if you could include a bonus Bitcoin tip along with your regular tip to a server? What if that Bitcoin tip returned to you if unclaimed after 30 days? An attractive business card Bitcoin tip that's easily claimed, gives instructions on wallets and spending, and returns to the tipper if unused. Tip.freetalklive.com. Tip.freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, April 9th, 2017. Silver is trading at $18.02 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,255 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.2 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,186. Antiwar.com reports while U.S. outrage at civilian casualties from Syrian airstrikes is being used as a pretext for military intervention against the Syrian government, U.S. forces continue their own airstrikes backing military operations in northeastern Syria and are killing an increasing number of civilians in their own right. On Saturday, U.S. airstrikes near Raqqa killed at least 21 people, mostly civilians, and while some of the strikes were near fighting between U.S.-backed troops and the Islamic State, at least one of the strikes appears to have been a deliberate attack on a boatload of civilians attempting to cross the Euphrates River. The boat was carrying about 40 people, and non-government organizations say that at least 7 bodies, 6 of them children, have been recovered so far. The U.S. has dropped leaflets in areas urging civilians to flee towards the Euphrates, but apparently dropped a second leaflet warning them not to cross the river or they'd be attacked. The airstrike centered around the village of Hanida, which is along the Euphrates River west of Raqqa. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported the number of additional civilians killed in U.S. strikes on the village. That the U.S. is attacking the village is puzzling because the Islamic State is not believed to have any presence in the village itself, and it appears to be at least some distance from the fight. The biggest target in the Hanida strikes was an internet cafe, with the U.S. strikes destroying the site, killing 14 people within, including 4 children. The U.S. is so far not offering any justification for any of the attacks in the area. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Bitcoin Not Bombs. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system and to fully capitalize on that decision in their fundraising efforts. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. UPI reports New York is poised to become the first state in the nation to provide free tuition to public colleges and universities after a deal struck as part of a larger budget negotiation was announced on Friday. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who announced the proposal in January alongside former Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders, hailed the deal as a historic opportunity for hundreds of thousands of families in the Empire State. Under the terms of the deal, the program would be phased in over 3 years. This year, students whose families earn less than $100,000 per year would be eligible for free college tuition. The cap would be raised to $125,000 once the program is fully implemented. The deal includes both the state universities of New York and the city universities of New York. The program does not cover the cost of incidentals like textbooks or room and board. Though the legislation eliminates tuition costs for many lower and middle income families, for students who exceed the income cap, tuition will be increased $200 per year for the next 5 years at all state schools. Under terms of the deal, students who accept free tuition to one of the schools would be required to live and work in New York for the same number of years they accepted the benefit, or the free tuition would be converted into a student loan. The in-state work requirement was largely seen as a concession to Republicans who control the state Senate, who balked at the price tag, an estimated $163 million by 2019. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports the Alabama Supreme Court ruled on Saturday that impeachment proceedings against Governor Robert Bentley can start next week, halting a court order that had blocked hearings stemming from his relationship with a former aide. Bentley has battled impeachment efforts over the last year and has defied calls from political leaders that he stand down. The 7-0 decision by the High Court allows impeachment proceedings to begin in the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee on Monday, even as justices consider new filings in the case. Bentley's troubles began last year when recording surfaced of him making suggestive remarks to a former advisor, Rebecca Mason, before his wife of 50 years filed for divorce in August 2015. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
Turning to Capitol Hill, House Republicans are considering their own version of the Violence Against Women Act. The GOP hopes their new No Punch Pretty Lady bill will finally help the party appeal to female voters.
No punch, no rape. Pass law. Women give big smiles at us again. Big votes.
Among its statutes, the bill would introduce harsher penalties for putting fists to women's face and proposes that if ladies smell nice like flowers, no smash lady.
And what if Pretty Lady Al-Qaeda? What if she death panel? What if she Benghazi? Yes, in some cases, punch lady.
In addition to increasing funding to shelters for crying ladies hurt from doing sex with bad guys, the bill also includes a clause complimenting the nation's women for losing weight.
And in other headlines, Lady Gaga kidnaps Commissioner Gordon. A man who likes to move it is still searching for the perfect song. And Rod Stewart is mistaken for an elderly aunt.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Dial toll free. Bring up what you want. Our number here, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio, it's Ian,
Johnny Ray,
and Mark.
Economics in One Lesson. It is a book, and we've been reading it slowly throughout the last several months, and we've been going chapter by chapter, not reading it on the air, but we'll share a few excerpts from time to time, but more discussing each chapter as we go through it. And we're about halfway through the book. It is free for anybody to read. Author is Henry Hazlitt. The book, again, Economics in One Lesson. You can go and grab a PDF version of this online. Just search for it, and you'll find it. With you in the studio here tonight as we launch into the third hour, it's Ian with you.
Johnny Ray.
And Mark.
Chapter 15 in the book is How the Price System Works. And we touched on prices earlier in some of our discussions, just sort of on our own throughout the show here tonight. Johnny Ray, do you want to introduce this chapter?
Sure. He starts it off by talking about a claim that that the New Dealers or the progressives of his day made, that the problem of production had been solved and we could have all of the goods and services we wanted, but greed was keeping people poor, and the idea that people could set their own prices and that entrepreneurs were seeking profits over goodness and wholesomeness, that they were greedy was the sole reason why we just weren't making everything we needed and just giving it to people. So he goes on to explain that that's not exactly true, and that you always have to make trade-offs whenever you're deciding to produce something. He starts with a Robinson Crusoe example and he explains that you can't that the Robinson Crusoe person is always constantly beset by a new need that he has.
He's got to eat. He's got to get water.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to fend off beasts.
Yep. And he can only very slowly improve his own situation, but he's constantly, there's some new need that is taking his attention and forcing him to stop doing what he's doing.
His resources and his time are limited.
severely.
Right. So he has to make decisions based on what is the most important in that given moment.
Right. And then he moves on to a modern economy and argues that the price system and people seeking profits is how we determine today in a complex system how we prioritize our resources.
Mm-hmm.
That if you have a tremendous need for something, then that will come along with that will come a profit opportunity for somebody who's savvy. And the more that need becomes satisfied, then the profits slowly the profit opportunities dry up a little bit until if the people are sated, basically, then you come back down to what is the normal profit margin, the normal percentage, the normal return on your investment.
So when you first enter a marketplace, when a product or service first enters the marketplace, the profit margin is going to be significantly higher for it because they're a market maker. They've
aren't as many competitors.
There's not as many competitors.
They have limited inventory
Right.
and gross
And
demand.
that profit that's out there is a signal to other people to say, hey, this is a business you might want to get into, right? Like, hey, there's money to be made here, which, of course, everybody that then gets into that business, well, then there's, less money to be made between all of them, essentially, in that, unless it continues to become more and more popular, then they can all make plenty of money. You never know what's going to happen in the future, obviously, but it likely will drive the profits down if more people enter into an industry.
Sure. So, somebody creates a pill that'll give you 10 more years of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately.
That's a seller.
Right. That's something that will work, and they can prove it, right? There's some kind of proof they've got. It's proofy. It's truthy. It's a factoid. And they bring it to market. They're charging $1 million a pill. 10 years, $1 million. Rich people are going to say $100,000 a year for 10 years. I'm there. Yeah. I'll just put off my trip to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take the 10 years, and I'll make some more money, and I'll get the trip to the moon, and I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's great. Then, within 18 months, everybody's, in the pill-making industry is like, whoa, they're making money hand over fist over there. Now, the poor people in this 18 months have continued to die, right? But the rich people have been taking the pill. And they're probably going to take another pill in the future, but it's another $1 million or whatever.
Anybody who's got like $1.5 million is going to buy $1 million pill for 10
That's
years.
what they're going to do. So then somebody's coming into the marketplace and saying, I've got a pill for $750,000, and then next person's
we're presuming there's no patents here, right? Because patents would get in the way of this competition from happening, which is one of the reasons why they exist, to protect businesses from this open competition that would drive prices down. Which is why we have prescription pills that are ridiculously expensive.
That's true, but in this area, the marketplace would be the globe. So Mexico, you'll be able to go across the border and get the the $750,000 pill or the $500,000 pill, and then it drives the pricing down very quickly because the people who are making 99% profit margin on their $1 million pill are immediately cutting price to get up underneath the person who's making the $750,000 pill, and they're all cutting price as quickly as they can
before you know it. It's a $10,000 pill,
or whatever it costs for the production of the pill. I have no clue what it'll cost, but that should be in theory what the marketplace does. However, I've seen something that kind of flies in the face of this. Ian, I want you to help me. Johnny Ray, I'd love to hear something from you too. How come marijuana costs just as much in Colorado as it does basically on the marketplace? How come prices...
It doesn't.
Okay. Well, tell me about it.
Now, as I understand it...
Prices are high on marijuana there. I was expecting, you to be able to go and get... Frankly, I was expecting it to cost less than a pack of cigarettes. 20 joints for less than a pack of cigarettes. It's easier to grow marijuana than it is tobacco. Mm-hmm. It's easier to cure it than it is tobacco. It should be cheap to grow this stuff, package it, and dispense it. Why isn't it $2 a pack for 20 marijuana cigarettes?
I would need to look at the current prices, but I remember right after legalization, we looked at it, and a lot of the price was tax.
There's a lot of tax
marijuana.
There's a lot of tax on cigarettes too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not really fair to to factor in the taxes into.
I know
the price
they have
of the
a lot of high-end weed that they're selling out there. They're selling the best of the best. So I would kind of say, well, people who want to smoke mids are growing it in the backyard.
Yeah, you can't buy mids.
You can't buy mids, but you could grow them in your backyard, dry them, and smoke them basically for free.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that argument against it. And just surprised that the pricing is so high. I mean, even for high-end marijuana, why does it cost so much?
That's a good question.
I think there's a lot of cachet in legal weed, and the whole regulatory regime will just make it some kind of arbitrary price, or the price will be based on how many Colorado bureaucrats are employed in running the system.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of government overhead involved there. You could say, even though there's a lot of competition as far as maybe there's not enough. I know that when Mark Emery opened up his marijuana stores up in Toronto and Montreal recently, for which he was arrested, they were doing this as kind of a protest. It was Canada's expected to legalize cannabis, so they just said, well, screw it, let's go ahead and open up the stores right now and sell marijuana openly to people. They had lines around the block. So, there's a high demand for this particular now legal product. And you also, of course, have people who are doing pot tourism as well coming into the States. So it's not just the people in the neighborhood that are wandering into these stores. It's people from all across the United States that are coming in there and buying
Demand's
this stuff.
certainly high, which should drive up pricing. I'm just surprised. I expected pricing of weed to just plummet. But I guess it's because if you want to smoke mids, you can just grow it in your backyard and smoke it.
It would be more interesting to hear somebody in Washington or Colorado where they've now had a few years under their belt with legalization, be able to really kind of weigh in on that and get us some updated prices. Do they post their prices on their websites for these medical, or not medical shops, but the dispensaries, the cannabis dispensaries? I've never actually gone to look, so that would be enlightening. Because again, they're probably charging less for high-end weed than you can get. Then you can pay for it in the black market. More coming up here. We'll see if we can get some numbers. 855-450 free. More on pricing on the way. Free Talk Live.
Today, how to incorporate your business in just 10 minutes so you won't lose everything if you get sued. Step 1, stop putting it off. If you're not incorporated and someone sues your business tomorrow, it's not just your business at risk. You can lose everything: your home, your car, even your life savings. Step 2, call the following number for a free 10-minute incorporation guide from Incorporate.com. 1-800-940-9829. They don't provide legal or financial advice. They just make incorporating quick and easy. So you can incorporate or form an LLC in just 10 minutes. That number again is 1-800-940-9829. Step 3, congratulate yourself. By taking just 10 minutes to incorporate your business or form an LLC, you protected your home, your car, and your life savings. And that is how you incorporate your business in just 10 minutes. But hurry while they're still giving away these 10-minute incorporation guides for free. Call 1-800-940-9829. That's 1-800-940-9829.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business. So make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
I just heard the best sales pitch I've heard in a long time on an airplane. The flight attendant announced, "If you paid more than $75 for your round-trip ticket, you overpaid." This is brilliant because everybody on the flight paid more, and I was struck by how all the road warriors stopped typing and reading and working and looked up. The announcement invited us to apply for the airline's credit card. And the sign-up bonus? Enough frequent flyer miles for a free round trip. Talk about turning lemons into lemonade. With some banks offering free credit cards, $75 is an outrage for an annual fee, but a bargain for airline tickets. For more tips on communicating more effectively, hit survivalspeech.com, where you can see how I got the CEO of another major airline to shower me with freebies. I'm Holland Cook.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. Facebook.freetalklive.com. We've all heard about blockchain assets like Dogecoin, Ether, and Ripple. Bitcoin isn't the only player in the blockchain game any longer. And for those of us wondering how to get our hands on these digital assets, finally, there's a solution. Shapeshift.io allows you to buy and sell between your digital assets and Bitcoin instantly between your own digital wallets. I've used it with ease. Shapeshift.io. There's no account or email address needed. You send them the crypto you want to sell. They send back the crypto you want to buy. It's that easy. Shapeshift.io.
You can connect with the Liberty Radio Network via our Facebook page at facebook.lrn.fm. That's facebook.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live, dial toll free. Join us here. Our number, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And actually, we're less than 2 weeks away, week and a half at this point, from 420. So it's appropriate that we are talking about the price of weed. We're talking about prices in general based on economics in one lesson, Chapter 15. We still got a little bit more to talk about in that. But, Mark, you brought up this question of marijuana prices in legal places like Colorado. You say that it's at around the same price as what you would pay for marijuana on the black market in other states. And I think that that was true in the very beginning when people were just getting the ball rolling out there. Regulations are still pretty, steep as far as regulatory costs and taxes, and there wasn't as much competition in the beginning as well. Plus, there was an incredibly high demand. Now you're starting to see other states legalizing. So, there was, I believe, 4 other states. Was it Nevada, California, Maine, and Massachusetts that voted for it, I believe, in this last 2016 election?
It's coming, that's for sure.
So you've went from 2 states initially to 4 states to now 8 states that have legal marijuana. It's going to lessen the amount of pot tourism that goes on to Washington and Colorado. So the demand is going to be going down a little bit because of that. And according to priceofweed.com, which is a website that allows, I guess, just anybody to submit the pricing that they've been paying for weed, they're saying here that high-quality, 1 ounce of high-quality weed is going for about $242 on average in Colorado. And then they break down.
What does it cost in a place where it's illegal?
I've heard people paying $300 an ounce for some good quality weed.
That's not a huge discount.
But it's also probably not as good of high quality weed in New Hampshire as it is in Colorado. So, in the black market, you kind of take what you can get. Basically, you don't really get a choice in most places. You have in the black market, you have a dealer. If you are well connected, you have more than one dealer, but it's pretty rare that people are able to call around to 5 different places and get different quotes, right? Like, you take what the dealer has. He might have something nice. He might have something that's, it's better than mids, but it's not, it's not the quality that you would get if you walk into one of these dispensaries where they literally have more types of weed than you could feasibly sample in a decent amount of time.
And you could possibly imagine.
Perhaps. I actually
only Kim Jong-un could imagine it.
I have actually not been into one of these places, so I'm actually kind of eager to see what they end up looking like in Massachusetts, because it's a short hop down the highway here.
Let's do a remote in Colorado, buddy. Give me somebody to call. I'll get us out there.
So anyway, that's according to priceofweed.com, but maybe more enlightening for you, Mark, is the story from businessinsider.com. This was from September of last year. Headline: The price of pot is tumbling in Colorado. Colorado's weed is getting much cheaper. In October, the cost of a wholesale pound of cannabis was around $2,400 to $2,600. That price has been almost cut in half to between $1,400 and $1,600 last month. Wait a minute. How are they talking about October in an article written in September? Something's wrong with the dates on this. This doesn't make much sense. Maybe they mean They must mean October of 2015.
Okay.
So they're comparing October of 2015 to September or August of 2016. Anyway, apparently there's another website, tradiv.com, TRADIV. You might want to pull that one up, Mark, because I haven't had a chance to do that yet. This is a online marijuana distribution platform. That's where they're getting the numbers from that they're talking about here. So in less than a year, we've seen wholesale prices drop to nearly half of their previous totals, according to the director of sales at Tradiv. According to Business Insider in an email, we've never seen prices like this. The reason prices are dropping so rapidly is because the market's getting flooded. As growers ramp up production, a huge amount of marijuana hitting the market in Colorado is causing a steady decline in wholesale prices regardless of demand, according to the commentator. The story is similar for Washington State, where the price of legal marijuana has dropped precipitously since the first recreational dispensaries opened, according to The Cannabist. And that is thecannabist.co.
Tradiv wants money.
Wherever there's a legal market for marijuana, prices have been dropping. Manlove says this has to do with the way cities in Colorado like Denver regulate the recreational marijuana market. In May, Denver's municipal government extended a moratorium on granting licenses to new retail dispensaries as well as marijuana cultivation facilities. So they're restricting the marketplace. This has allowed a minority of large cannabis business owners to buy and consolidate the remaining licenses, says Manlove. And without strict canopy limits, the amount of plants one facility can grow, the influx of marijuana will continue to cause prices to drop. So Colorado growers, so even with limited locations owned by limited amounts, there's still enough product out there that's just driving down the price. So Colorado growers with few limits and access to a huge market are able to build an economy of scale, reducing prices across the board. So if you think about it, Mark, if you do the math here on, let's see, they're saying that prices, this was in September, so maybe they're cheaper now. Who knows? I mean, it can only go down so far, but $1,400, let's call it $1,500 for a pound of marijuana. You've got 16 ounces in a pound. That's less than $100 wholesale price per ounce.
Now, is that high quality or is that
That's
just
high quality?
Mids? Okay.
Yeah, they're not even messing with low quality. If you want to buy lower quality weed in these places, you have to go to the black market.
Yeah, I think you would. I would think you would have to.
Yeah.
And essentially, if you have a house and you're in Colorado or Washington or any place where recreational marijuana is legal, you can probably just, I don't know, throw some seeds in the backyard. You've got some pot plants and you're good to go. I mean, it doesn't take too much cultivation to bring in to grow mids.
I can tell you, Mark, that from my experience, and this was 15 years ago when I was living in Florida, I had some people that I knew who were in the marijuana trade business, and the price of a pound of marijuana, mid-grade marijuana, the street level 1 pound buy, you're not buying, hundreds of pounds or something like that, you could get it for around $1,600, which is the same price as what the very, very high-end weed is now selling for in Colorado. So basically, you've got wholesale buyers are paying about what mids buyers paid back, a decade or so ago. So very, very cheap. I mean, the prices have definitely come down. So I would say you need to revise your beliefs about that.
Okay.
There you go. Toll-free number here, 855-450-FREE. It's not uncommon to see, in the black market, to see a quarter pound of, high-test cannabis selling for the prices that a full pound is selling for in Colorado.
Right.
So there you go. Now, how much they're marking that up?
That's what's confusing about it all, though, is that in many cases it's difficult to find the very high quality weed in the black market.
That's true.
Whereas in Colorado, it's hard to compare apples to apples.
Yep, it's true. And the other thing the black market does is they will sometimes debase the product. And what I mean by that is it's not unheard of for unscrupulous dealers to do things like spraying down their high-end marijuana because it's sold by weight. And so if they wet it down, then you're paying a water price. So you get an ounce of weed, but if you spray it down, it might be an ounce and a half.
Right.
And that, of course, makes for moldy weed and unhappy customers, but it's the black market, and a lot of times these guys can get away with it.
Yeah.
So the toll-free number here, and that would never happen in Colorado because there's so much competition and quality. 855-450-FREE. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
The answer to being in control of your own healthcare is freedom from insurance. Become part of a group of self-pay patients that come together to share in each other's medical expenses. Individual share amounts begin at $107 a month and $347 for families. Choose from 3 health-sharing programs. Holistic treatments may be eligible for sharing. See guidelines. Discount programs available for dental, vision, and pharmacy. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Free Talk Live.
How dare you, and who do you think you are? I mean, it's my life, it's my business. I should be able to run it how I want to, and my customers should be able to make the choice for themselves as to whether or not they want to do business with me. And they should be able to make that choice based on the quality of my product or my reputation or the fact that I've got third-party certification or whatever factors they deem important. If I'm doing business and you don't trust me or you think I'm shady, then you don't have to do business with me. In fact, you can tell other people what you think about my business and my practices, and maybe they also will join you in not doing business with me. There's no need for government regulations out there. The marketplace can handle third-party certification of various different products and services to where people who are concerned about whether or not the business they're dealing with is trustworthy can check with a verifiable resource that indeed this is a trustworthy individual or a trustworthy company that you're doing business with.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There's no better app for tracking the value of cryptocurrencies than CoinCap. I've had a lot of apps for tracking Bitcoin, but none that's ever been able to track 500 digital assets at once. Their best feature is the Altfolio. I love this thing. You enter how many Bitcoins, Ether, Dash, Doge, or whatever else you have, and it tells you how much your crypto is worth. You can watch yourself get rich. If you have crypto, go right now to coincap.io, or you can use the Apple Store or Google Play to get the app. I love CoinCap. coincap.io.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You can dial toll-free here and bring up anything you want. We're talking about pricing and how prices are set. We're going to get back into more from economics in one lesson. And a lot of us here on Free Talk Live, we're big fans of Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin.com is the most unique online destination in the Bitcoin universe. If you're new to Bitcoin or you're an experienced user, you'll find value with Bitcoin.com. Whether you're buying Bitcoin or you just want to learn more about it, you can do that through Bitcoin.com. You can also interact with other Bitcoin users. They've got a forum. It's always open and censorship-free at forum.bitcoin.com. And there are no bigger Bitcoin believers than the Bitcoin.com team. And that's why Bitcoin.com is a one-stop shop for everything you need to get into Bitcoin life. You can also play games at games.bitcoin.com and learn more at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com. More about prices coming up here in moments. We've got Sarah in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Sarah.
Yes, I just want to mention that I turned communist in Boston when I lived there for 3 years. And it seemed like there was about 7 to 11 different communist parties. And they had about 10 different meetings per week, those groups. And I got indoctrinated by going to at least 50 of those classes. And I went to 2 of the Communist Party conventions, one in Hartford and one in Manhattan. But, so every other person was a communist in Boston. And you know that all the professors like Noam Chomsky, that guy, and all the professors there, MIT, Harvard, they're all communist socialists. You know that, right?
That's a good reason to not send your kids to college.
It's not surprising that a government employee that gets their paycheck through a monopoly would think that frankly, the government monopoly is a good choice.
Well, I don't know about that, but Rush Limbaugh constantly picks at the professors that they're communists. And then he was kicking around Obama for being a communist.
Uh-huh.
So that basically we have communism in America, like Social Security.
Yeah, that's true.
Medicaid.
Well, it's not
socialism,
communism,
but yeah.
It's difficult. The problem is that communism means something different than what people, describe it as. In communism, there is no government at all. Everybody makes decisions communally. It's like talking about heaven. It's not possible for it to even exist. But some people will call very intrusive socialism communism, which is fine, like extra socialism, extra strong.
I mean, Sarah's giving us the example here of why communism doesn't exist in the way that you're talking about, Mark, because how many parties were there? 10 of them? I mean, they obviously don't agree on how to implement their ideas, right?
Well, the thing was, there were 7 different communist parties.
Yeah,
and
why are there so many of them?
And then, the thing about it is that I couldn't understand. I only could understand the Workers' World Party and then the CP Party and all the rest of them. I went to the meeting and I got kind of thrown off because I don't quite understand what their concept was, but they were a socialist party.
Usually it has to do with taking from the wealthy and forcing wealth redistribution and, in whatever arbitrary manner that the communist dictators or, the party members believe that it needs to be done. But, of course, clearly not all of the communists agree on how exactly to implement their plans. And so you've got communists fighting with communists over what the right form or version of communism is, which is just more proof that it's an unworkable plan that's never going to come to fruition.
So let me ask you this, Sarah. You went to a communist thing called the Workers' Party or something, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Workers' World Party.
And did you have a job at the time?
No, I was on disability, the same thing that I do now.
Now, do you know that this quote, I believe this is a Karl Marx quote. I haven't had a lot of chance to vet it for sure, but it says, "He who does not work, neither shall he eat."
Ooh.
What do you think about that quote?
Well, you know what? The thing is that, communist motto is that you contribute to according to your ability. I run around and every day, and I try to get speeding vans for our school children. So I feel like I'm contributing. I'm doing what I'm capable of doing.
You're a community activist?
Right. Communist Party, each person gets according to what they need, and each people contribute and work according to their ability.
Right. Isn't that a nice idea? It really sounds wonderful. But the reality is that when you set it up that way, it turns out that the people that are most able to work don't want to work that hard because there's a bunch of people who are mooching who are acting like they can't work because they know that they're going to get fed whether or not they actually get out there in the field and do the work.
Well, do you think Donald Trump dumping another $50
just ignore what I just said?
On war?
Did you just ignore what I just said?
No, I understand that, but do you think that's an appropriate way of money well spent? That he blew another $50 million.
No, of course not. We're against that. I understand. You don't listen to the show, so you have no idea what we actually think about things beyond when we talk to you when you call in. So if you actually listened to Free Talk Live, then you would know that we're all firmly against bombing anyone else anywhere in the world. Certainly the recent bombing in Syria was a horrifying thing. So we're against that. But that doesn't mean that we're in favor of forced wealth redistribution. And you completely ignored the point that I made, Sarah, about how when you have this from each according to their ability to each according to their needs system, it turns out that a bunch of people who have the ability act needy because they still get stuff and they don't have to use their abilities.
Right. I mean, you've shown by being
my ability every day to call the show. That takes a lot of work.
Right. Sarah, I know
I'm talking about you.
You have ability, Sarah. That's what we're saying is that communism is a poor distribution of that ability. So you're working as basically an unpaid community organizer and receiving money for essentially, being disabled or whatever, and that just goes to show that the system's all messed up. You could be doing profitable work because you are doing unprofitable work.
Why would you say getting speeding bans for our school children is an unprofitable work? I'm trying to keep the children safe.
Well, go get a job in the government.
I'm trying to bring our 30,000 people were killed in auto crashes. I'm trying to get speeding bans back for our kids.
Sarah, what do you do? I want you to address the point that I made here. What do you do with the people who are pretending like they can't work so they can get fed under your communist system without having to actually go out and work? What do you do with those people?
The thing about it is it's very hard to cheat the system.
No, it's actually pretty easy to cheat the system.
You're talking about this system.
They just hand out
when you have a communist system, when they've been tried, they fail because it's easy to cheat the system. All you have to do is say, sorry, I can't work.
I'm tired. My back hurts.
I got a boo-boo. I got a headache. You got a whole variety. I'm hungry. Whole variety of things.
Then you got a bunch of people who might have been working hard out in the fields, and they're looking at over these guys saying that they can't work, and they're like, I know this guy can work. I saw him the other day. He was fixing his bike or something. He can work. And then they say, well, screw this. I'm not going to work half as hard as I've been working. Why should I work so hard to feed these lazy bums over here? And then they don't work as hard. The crops go down. People start to starve as a result of that. I mean, this is what really happens. That's what happened in, was it Jamestown?
Jamestown, yeah.
Yeah. So, Sarah, if you don't want to address the issue, thanks for the call tonight. So we were talking about the pricing system, Chapter 15 out of the book Economics in One Lesson. And they address in here, Johnny Ray, the kind of the question of how the prices are initially set in the first place. Because it's tempting to say, well, I spent this amount of time or this amount of money on this thing, and so therefore I should get that time and money back. So I'm going to price it at whatever would reclaim that,
right?
Plus some profit on top. But sometimes the market doesn't let you do that.
It doesn't cooperate.
Meaning that if you've put all this time and effort into something and you want to get X out of it, but there's all these other people who've entered into the same business and they're competing with you and they're driving their prices down, maybe they've got a more effective manufacturing process or whatever, all of a sudden you're looking around in the market, you see that your competition is priced lower than you. You may actually have to price below cost in order to move the product. So because of competition, that has nothing to do with, how much time and effort that you've put in. It's the competition that's
the buyers are ultimately mostly deciding the price.
We're going to continue here. 855-450 free. It's Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com recently reported Bitcoin transaction fees have increased by more than 1,200% since 2015. To many Bitcoin proponents, the current fee market is moving way too fast, making Bitcoin unusable for certain transactions. The fee market and slow confirmation times have also increased the tension concerning the block size debate. However, if there are wallets with low amounts of Bitcoin that can't cover the fees, they become virtually unspendable. Learn more at news.bitcoin.com. That's news.bitcoin.com.
A funny thing happens when you don't advertise. Nothing. Modern advertisers have been trained to look for trackability in their advertising, and web search ads are great for that. They also help you get the consumer that's looking for products like yours in the moment. But they're expensive, and they do nothing to convince people to try your product segment in the first place. If you're a local advertiser, contact this station. If you can use national exposure, Free Talk Live's on more than 150 stations, and we can help advertisers with little budgets and big ones. Send me an email, mark@freetalklive.com. It's mark@freetalklive.com.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Visit GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Hi folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's GetTheTea.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire, working hard to represent you, not some special interest group. You can help by going to libertylobby.info, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. Visit libertylobby.info today to find out more.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. We got time for you. If you dial now, you can join us at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Talking about production and pricing. How is it that prices are set in the marketplace? And why is it in the book Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt, there's this idea that I'd never even heard of before, but apparently some people believe in this idea that people should just produce whatever thing they produce to the full capacity of their modern technical process. Like, just because you have the ability to make a zillion pairs of shoes, that you should just keep making them, even if there's not enough demand out there to purchase them. And it bewilders me that somebody would even have that particular belief system.
I think it's part of the overarching theme that sort of the seen and the unseen, that you can't just, for every shoe you make, you're not making something else. So there's an opportunity cost. And you're certainly welcome to make all the shoes you want, but there comes a point where it's not doing you any good, and the purpose.
And you're just piling up inventory.
Yeah, and the purpose of profits and prices is to direct people to spend their efforts and their resources on the things that people want the most.
Right, and so therefore spending it the most efficiently. Mark, you look confused.
I'm just trying to imagine in what world it seems like a good idea to just, produce a bunch of stuff that people aren't going to buy.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's beyond my my understanding. But that's some of the things that the author here, Henry Hazlitt, is addressing. Apparently, maybe it's certain economists who just believe that.
No, I think it is something more like not everybody in the world has shoes, and yet the production of shoes does not continue. The production of shoes is stopped when the profitability of making shoes is not enough to keep going. So even though there are people who still want a pair of shoes, there are some people who are deciding not to make shoes, and why would that be?
I see. And so the suggestion is that these are bad people because they are halting production when they should just continue to make the shoes for the good of mankind.
Right.
That's the idea.
Yeah, well, the ideas of socialism are deep and pervasive, especially in the mid 20th century, because they were still shedding those notions. I mean, at this point, this stuff's been tried over and over again, and it all generally results in bad customer service, depletion of what it is that people are trying to distribute. It's just an inefficient model, and it fails over and over again.
I mean, the fact is, one of the things you wanted to get into here was a paragraph you said was too long to read on the air, Johnny Ray. What was the kind of the relevant thrust of that particular section?
Well, like I said, he starts the chapter talking about Robinson Crusoe economics, and he moves into modern economics, and he starts talking about how prices come from. This chapter, I would say, is about A, the function of prices, and B, how we arrive at the prevailing prices we have. And it's like there's the process that we described earlier where demand affects supply. If demand is really high, then you can make a lot of money. So you're going to go in and you're going to try and get those inflated profits. That will increase supply. Then demand goes down. So it's like a self-regulating. He analogizes it to a governor on a machine where, as the RPMs are going up, the RPMs are going up, and you've got these weighted balls that are spinning, and they're slowly spinning more in the horizontal position. And when the weights are attached to like a valve, so when they're spinning at full speed, the fuel to the machine will be cut. So then the RPMs go down and the machine goes back to normal. And he describes the economy as a bunch of those machines working together. Because if you're making a finished product, you're buying raw materials for that. So that's going to affect the supply and demand of that particular thing. And I don't know about you guys, but as a libertarian, I have conceived of the market as this completely incomprehensible, almost magic thing.
It's a very complicated organism.
It's too complicated for any man or group of men to sort of dissect and understand.
Which is why when you have central control try to set prices, like, say, in the Soviet Union, for instance, you have tremendous errors because it's way beyond our ability as men or group of men and women to calculate these things, to try to figure it out.
What about when we have big computers? Won't computers be able to figure out who needs what, where, when, and why?
There are certainly people who believe that.
They will help, but they can't because because computers and robots will not be able to have these unintuitive leaps of imagination that enable the speculator to succeed. They won't be able to speculate on the future. They won't be able to interpret data and make accurate predictions about the future, I don't think. And I think that human beings have this kind of divine something in them that allows some of them to be very good at that. And the speculations of people and their predictions about the future also have an effect on the price. And it's totally unknowable. And it's affected and swayed by the thought processes of possibly 7 trillion people.
I think that once...
Or wait a minute, is it billion?
It's billion. Yeah, sorry about that. I should have caught that for you. I would say that we don't know what's going to happen once AI, artificial intelligence, comes into economics. We just don't know. But the fastest way, presumably, it's going to be better. Or we're all going to die in some Terminator future, right? One of those two. Yeah. Presumably it's better. And if that's the case, then the market's the thing that's going to get us to it the most quickly, right? That's the way that we are going to have this positive future, whatever that might be, is to let the market do its thing rather than holding it back whenever the government holds the market back constantly.
Sure.
Why isn't there a what do humans want more than anything? It seems to me they want to live longer. But there's nearly nothing going on in the area of science right now because the government essentially has to do with science funding, and they don't have any interest in this, it seems, in people living longer, especially people who are retired living longer. They want that money to change hands. They want probate taxes. They want all that other stuff. And so you've got this misallocation of funding. I don't know. The government just messes up everything it gets an opportunity to touch.
The state-centric model gives you, in America, we get to vote on things a couple of times a year, depending on
maximum
on where you live.
Yeah.
And in the market, you can make a dozen votes a day, a dozen or more votes a day.
You do it in an hour.
Yeah, and it's not just a vote. It's you are taking a part of yourself and sacrificing it to say you want this other thing, and so
sacrifice may not be the right word. Trading,
you're
trading your time or your money.
You're exchanging something.
If you want to say it's a sacrifice, you could say you're sacrificing your ability to use that on something else, meaning that whatever it is you've dedicated the money to is money that you won't be able to dedicate to another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of talks in a more of a microcosm about what we were discussing wider, where if a business decides to cut down production on one thing, they may ramp up production somewhere else. They might cut employees, and those employees then go get hired by other businesses who then expand their production. So, there's always this kind of ebb and flow of the interactions in the market. You want to talk about an artificial intelligence. The market is basically that, right?
Because it's a greater intelligence than humans.
Right, because it's all those trillions of decisions being made simultaneously without necessarily knowledge of one another being made. And that's what the machine would have to do. Is it would have to be able to know all of those decisions in order to accurately calculate price. But the market amazingly does a darn good job of it when the government doesn't get in the way.
There's inefficiencies in the market, of course, and
sure, but it self-corrects for that.
It's made of human beings. And human beings make mistakes.
It's just that the inefficiencies that are currently, the alternatives to the market are roundly and deeply much more inefficient than the marketplace is.
That's true. Yeah,
the
market
state often
perfect.
Rewards failure, and the market rarely does so.
That's true. It punishes failure and mistakes. You learn real fast, usually in the market, because of all the signals that we were talking about before, whether it's customer feedback or the fact that you're putting a product out and it doesn't sell. There's a lot of things that will give an alert business owner a heads up that you blew it, and so you need to do something now to solve that problem so you don't keep blowing it in the future and end up out of business. And if you do, then again, those resources will get bought up at pennies on the dollar. Somebody will, use them for a different purpose and create a new thing.
So the bureaucrats do not understand the quasi-automatic system of the market. They are always disturbed by it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are.
All right. That was Chapter 15. We'll get into Chapter 16 next week. You can read along with us. Go look for Economics in One Lesson. This has been Free Talk Live.
Free Press Publications is an independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper FPP News at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No-Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
You may already know about the Free Talk Live audio-on-demand phone line at 641-793-9660. Did you know that not only can you listen to Free Talk Live via your phone, you can also leave a message and have it delivered to Free Talk Live's hosts? To leave us your thoughts, just dial 641-793-9660.